Hey.
Okay, that's it. I think we're live now. This is perfect.
Awesome.
I'm gonna just show the chat real quick. See if we get anything coming through. So guys, I got a question for you. What's the biggest news you've heard in this past week, gaming wise? Let's think of a particular god and a publisher. Daniel, who comes to mind?
Man, it's got to be this boy on screen. It's got to be Kratos, the God of War.
The God. Do you know what? I'll say real quick about this here before I pass it on to you guys. For me, I couldn't care less that Kratos is arriving on PC. I think it doesn't matter to me. I'm not a PC gamer, so I mean, for the PC gamers, I'm really happy for them. I'm gonna remain on console still, but I think the main thing is it shows a shift, right? And it takes me straight back to this conversation I had with this guy on YouTube, and the video was titled "Jim Ryan is going to destroy Sony PlayStation," and I went to the comment section, right, and I completely started defending Jim Ryan, which is crazy. It's not something I should be doing. And I was like, no. I think he's actually very intelligent. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly where the market's gonna go. So for him, this just makes perfect sense. And I got ran the hell out of there. They completely abused me. And one thing I will say about that guy's topic, though, I think he's right in the sense that it's not that Jim Ryan is going to destroy Sony PlayStation. That's completely wrong. But I think he's right that this idea of the perfect closed ecosystem is completely gone. And I think it takes Sony doing that to show that, basically. But I'm gonna pass it on to you real quick. Is this a good move for Sony? And more importantly, why are they doing this now?
So, as for is it a good move? Yeah, I think it for sure definitely is. You know, I think the timing of it is it's not that it's too late, obviously. I think that they could have done it earlier and had, just as much success. Like God of War has sold ridiculously well on PlayStation 4, and porting it over to PC is just going to mean that it's going to sell a lot more. And I think that the reason that they waited this long is, whether intentionally or not, like whether it was the original plan or not, rather, like putting it out while sort of talking about the next God of War is just going to mean that like you're going to get more of the PC gamer like audience playing God of War and thinking about God of War before the second one comes out. And then when it comes out, I'm assuming it won't launch day and date onto PC. So people who want to be part of the conversation, want to get in there as soon as possible, are probably going to have to play it on PS4 or 5. I don't know if they actually said whether or not it was going to be cross-platform or cross-gen.
It is going to be cross-gen, and that's a debate in itself. But yeah, I mean, this for me is exactly the same as when if you get the PlayStation 5, the moment you got the PlayStation online account, I was shocked at that. It's more than 10 games? Definitely Persona 5, God of War, Crash Bandicoot. There's loads of them that you get just for having a PlayStation 5 being with the Sony membership. But then you look at it, and they're all games that they have sequels to, or they're not brand new. These are the best of the old generation, and Sony's so keen on keeping their track record from the last generation and making sure that carries them forward into this one with a strong hand. So I can't see the new God of War being day in day out on PC, but releasing the last one now, it's a perfect way to build up hype and more people interested in the franchise.
Yeah, I do think that the second God of War Ragnarok will go to PC probably faster than this one did, just because they specifically went out and bought Nixxes, a studio whose entire identity is porting things to PC. So I do think that it's going to be a faster turnaround between console and PC for them going forward. But yeah, I still wouldn't expect to see any of these games day and date.
But I mean, I guess for me the question is why is this really happening now? Is this a case of Jim Ryan looking at the numbers? Is it a case of he always knew this was going to happen, or is it a financial thing? Because okay, if we think about PlayStation as the perfect ecosystem, the closed ecosystem, if you're gonna sell PlayStation 4s and PlayStation 5s or whatever it may be, you do need these first-time exclusive games. Now, Microsoft obviously went down a different approach, but I guess my question is, if you're a gamer, yeah, and basically, well, of course you're a gamer, and Sony is basically releasing God of War, day and date, Ragnarok on PC. Is that really going to affect their sales substantially, or is it a case that PC gamers stay PC and console gamers stay console? Look, Project SD, you're a PC gamer.
Okay, so there are a lot of things in this. First of all, the God of War news isn't like, how do I put this up? When I saw this news, I assumed it's going to be on the Epic Game Store. That's where Sony had done an investment before. I actually rechecked. There was an investment done with Epic Game Store. So I assume that is where God of War is going to pop up with timed exclusivity over there. But no, it's actually on Steam. I actually wishlisted. That actually changed the whole view on where this is actually going, and it is massive speculation. Okay? What I would say is, first look at what a PlayStation is. After we swapped to x86, PlayStations are effectively just PCs with a different operating system. Would you disagree?
Not particularly.
Yeah, exactly. They just are. So the question now is, right, is as PCs become easier and easier to understand, because right now there's a massive barrier to entry to enter a PC. Let's say you need to know how GPUs work, how CPUs work, which market to get, what kind of motherboards to get, then making all of them work. So there's a barrier to enter right now, right, with PC gaming. But let's say you get something like the Steam Deck. That is also a PC, but the barrier to entry has now significantly reduced. So consoles used to be really easy to go for because they were easy to use. You just buy them out of the box and they will work immediately. But what would happen if PCs actually get to that exact same level as a console? Then you would already want to have a market there preemptively, because Sony does not want to lose their percentage cut that they get off of the store, which they have right now with their consoles. So if ever PC gaming took off, with this they would have all the know-how on how to make sure their games are on PC and how they function. Plus, if they put it on Steam, they have reached their games to the highest amount of PC audiences, so they know how high quality the games are. They also build up experiences, and along with that, they also learn how to run a store. And this is not that infrequent. If you look at Ubisoft, they used to sell games as well, and then they made their own store. Rockstar, they have their own store. Epic Games obviously have their own store. So we have GOG, again, if the Witcher company is Cyberpunk, they also have their own store. So the real question is this looks like more like a gamble on if PC gaming took off and consoles will eventually became irrelevant because of how easy PC gaming became. Then the gamble is, if that turn ever happened, we already have our pockets in this market. All we have to do is open up a new store. And this is not that confusing if you look at even when Nintendo's doing, or let's say Pokemon, where they have some of their games on the phone, which is Pokemon Unite. That's a Switch game that's also on here, right? They're just dabbling into the market so people recognize their games outside of just their console as well. That would be my take.
You know, I think you're definitely right about that. And one thing I will say is that it did occur to me straight away that what if at some point Sony just creates their own store? So this idea of going towards the PC market, okay, it makes sense, because I think that's roughly around maybe 25 or maybe 80% of the console industry. And when you're going to focus solely on a box, because the PlayStation, okay, we can say the console market is, let's say, I think 30% or 28% of the whole gaming industry as a whole. If Sony owns 30% of that, and if God of War is only selling 20 million to 110 million or 100 million PlayStation subscribers, that's a lot of money being left on the table. So it makes perfect sense to drop this on the PC. I think that you raise a really good point in the sense that, will they create their own store? That's a point I didn't really think about, and it wasn't something I was really edging towards, because even though they create their own store, because obviously if you create your own store, then obviously you don't have to pay that 30% cut. I don't think that will happen though, because I do feel when you go for the PC market, I'm not too sure how attractive a Sony store is going to be. First of all, I don't think they're going to overtake Steam. I don't think they're going to overtake Epic. So I think these games are going to come out on Steam. It just makes perfect sense, because if it's all about finance, then you're going to drop it on Steam. And Daniel, you know, the project raised some really good points there. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So as far as them like opening their own store, I think honestly, I could like if they were going to start targeting the PC marketplace as the thing that they could do, I would definitely think that is certainly something they would at least consider doing. I don't know how well it would turn out because like we've seen one of the things that I consistently see people complain about on the PC like side of gaming is like, oh, there's so many different launchers, you know, I've got all these different things and a lot of them are not very good. Like the Microsoft store is not good, and you know, Sony hasn't had a whole lot of experience with PC gaming, so chances are that if they tried to create a marketplace, it also would not be particularly great. So I think that honestly, just leaving it on Steam is the way to go. But to answer the original question about like if God of War 2, God of War Ragnarok launched like day and date console and PC, you know, would that cut into PlayStation sales? I don't think it really would. You know, I think that it's that thing where, you know, the people who are going to buy it are just going to buy it wherever they are. You know, people who prefer console will buy it there, and the people who buy it on PC, you know, will prefer to play it there. And, you know, I don't think that there's any way that that's going to limit the amount of sales that you would get. You know, you're going to, if anything, probably just wind up with more, because like you're increasing the number of potential consumers who have access to your game. And then on top of that, you're creating the potential of people buying it in both places, assuming that they don't do cross-buy. So it's like, it's really just a win-win, and I'm not really sure why they haven't already started doing it.
Yeah, no, I think you raised some really good points there, and it has always been this fear of, you know, it's this idea of, okay, fine, we have this console and we need people to buy this console. How do we make them buy this console? We give them exclusive great games. Mm-hmm. But if there is a bit of an argument, because if you look at it in a sense, let's take Nintendo for example, right? The reason why I bought the Switch, or I bought the Wii or the Wii U, all those three Nintendo consoles, is those consoles were garbage. No, sorry, the Switch is cool. Yeah. The Wii U was pure garbage, but I bought it just to play the Nintendo exclusive consoles. The Nintendo exclusive games. I don't play any third-party games on it. I could pretty much count every single Nintendo game I have on each of these consoles. So I see if Sony are looking at it from that point of view, they make it's a very compelling argument to keep your games close to an ecosystem. But I do think things are changing, because I think from a financial perspective. Sorry, go ahead, man.
They've had a lot of success though with the I think the proven market seems to have been recently. It's 6 months or 1 year. You get console exclusivity for 1 year, and then it comes out on other consoles 1 year later. So you've got that initial sales spike, you get your initial purchases, and then the game actually gets a spike in popularity just when it's drifting off the radar, just when people are forgetting about it. The fact it reappears somewhere else 1 year later gives it that expanded lifespan. And the people who raved about it the first time suddenly tell all their friends, oh, you can get it now. And the games that seem to become truly immortal, that people remember from the last few years, I'm looking at them, and they all seem to have this spike about 1 year later. So that's my question about whether it would be day in, day out. So God of War 2, whether it would be day in, day out, I don't think it would. I think Sony would play it safe. Suspect Sony would play it safe. They'll have 1 year of the PS5 and PS4. And then, yeah, I agree with you. I think it inevitably will go to PC now. Nexus, as you said, I'm glad Sony actually have brought in outside expertise, because the studios I've seen that have just said, oh, we'll dump our game on the PC without optimizing it properly. And and I always trying to work out what the barrier is to studio, because we talked about barriers to people buying the game. What launcher do you use? GOG versus Steam versus Epic, and everyone's got their launcher that they stick to. Some people spread across them, but I think most people are in one camp or another. But for consoles, from the publisher's point of view, and the reason I think Nintendo is scared of the PC market, there's two aspects. They don't want to share the money, because if you go through Steam, you've got to pay Steam. You lose the cut. And as you said, it's a bigger audience, so it shouldn't matter, but it does. Companies are greedy. And secondly, the moment you put something on PC, you make it vulnerable. Vulnerable is the wrong word, but modding. You lose control of the product. You don't know what specs it'll be played on, and you don't know what other things people add to the game. And I think Sony's less cautious about this than Nintendo. Nintendo would freak out the moment they see someone sticking a non-Mario sprite on their games. They scream for a proper tantrum. I don't think Sony's as precious as Nintendo, but I don't think they're as open to this as Microsoft is.
Yes, so I get the Nintendo idea, but I do think I think the reason why I actually don't really think it's that per se. I think the reason why is because Nintendo's just extremely old school. I think they will eventually go down this way. They're extremely similar to Sony in the sense that, you know, they really do believe in this kind of closed ecosystem, and I think it's a little bit more dangerous for them. And I say that just because, for me personally, the only reason why I have a Nintendo console is because of those games. Whereas with Sony, it's a bit different. You know, they have third parties, they have different things going for them. Do you think the project? I'll put this one to you. Do you think if Nintendo goes the PC way, do you think it's a little bit more dangerous for them as opposed to Sony doing it?
They already hate PCs. What are you on about? Because of emulation. Like they hate its guts because half of the Pokemon games that you probably see on YouTube are modded. They already know what the PC community is. They hate its guts. But one of the things I did find interesting is like, so you know how I pitched this idea of, right, they could have their own store on a PC, right? And that just sounded kind of weird. It was like, why would they have a store on a PC, right? Because that usually doesn't work out. The problem is they already have a PC, which is a PlayStation 5, and they already have a store on it. They just don't allow you to use anything else. You see the thing? Like, for example, when we had the Nintendo Switch, right? That was the portable console, right? So what did it have? It was a PC. And it had Nintendo's operating system on it to prevent you from installing anything else on it. And it had its Nintendo store. So it kind of forced you to not go anywhere with it. Does that make sense? It's already a PC. So when you get something like Steam Deck, which has its Valve's proprietary software and then its store, but it doesn't lock you there, you can run anything else on it. Don't you think if that ever became the future and PCs became easy? Because right now, Sony has no threat from the PC market. No one's going to go and run out to go make a PC after God of War popped up. There's a reason why consoles sell is because you just get them out of the box and they work immediately. So right now, PC can't be a threat because it's a hassle to make. And I have like friend proof, like for example, one guy's CPU is dying. That usually doesn't happen with the PlayStation 5. He just bought the wrong CPU. So right now, this works in two ways. Like the one person said that it can just boost the sales again because it brings it back into circulation. Secondly, you're tapping into a market that is yet, like it is going somewhere, but it's still not really easy to get into. I would just say PC gaming is usually for the elite people. But if in the future, if more stuff like the Steam Deck came out, they would already have a chance at the market because they've already been dabbling with it. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but as far as the part of like, you know, PC can't really be a competitor because like, you know, you have the convenience of consoles are always going to be more convenient. I think that's always probably going to be true, but they definitely are becoming more convenient. Like you can definitely buy just like a pre-built PC and just plug it in and more or less be good to go. Like when this computer inevitably dies, probably sooner rather than later because I'm not careful, like I'm just gonna buy a pre-built one. Like I'm not gonna put the effort into to research all the parts and like do all that. I'm just gonna buy a new one and just plug it in and hope it works.
That is exactly why Sony is investing into this market as well. Like when will PCs just become as easy as buying a PlayStation 5? Right now, that's not the case though, because an Xbox and PlayStation are still giving you more power for the money. You can run Facebook on your PC, but like the PlayStation would do far more graphics-wise and everything-wise. So right now, we're not there. But with the Steam Deck, I actually see us going somewhere. That console is scary.
Yeah, and it's the thing about consoles, and I'm just picturing however many years in the future, a world where consoles aren't essentially acting as performance benchmarks. Because right now, a console comes out, you know, you've got 5 years where the majority of games will be optimized to run at those level of specs. But we already have an entire ecosystem on PC of people where those benchmarks don't exist. It's a complete free-for-all where any game can be spec'd up or spec'd down as much as you like. And I think for a lot of people, it's very comforting to know, okay, I buy a PS4, this will be good for, it could be as low as 4, it could be as many as 8. But you've got that period of time where you know the games will run fine, you're never going to have any issues. And if Sony could launch their own store, of course they could. But they couldn't do it without a hell of a lot more complexity than they've got by just controlling the specs right now.
Yeah, I think Sony doing their own store, I think it's a really good idea and it makes a lot of sense for them, but I don't think financially they can. I don't think financially it's gonna be something that they're gonna do. I think as soon as you start dropping your games on a PC, I don't know. I mean, you guys tell me, are PC players flexible that much? Like, do they have Steam? Do they have Epic? Do they buy from every single store available?
I mean, I'm not really like a huge PC gamer. Like, I'm primarily console. But even me, like, I have probably 3-4 launchers on this PC right now, and a lot of it is because it's the only place to get certain things. Like, obviously, I have Battle.net, and I've got the Epic launcher and Steam and all that, just because like there are certain games that I want to play on my PC that are only in one place or the other. If I had the choice, then I would just be like, I'm just going to do Steam, or I'm just going to do whatever. I haven't really played enough on PC to even build up like a particular care as to which one. But yeah, like if I had the choice, I would pick one and stick with it.
I would actually ask the question: is that would you rather download a file to run a game that is exclusive to a place, or spend $300 for the privilege of accessing the store?
Yeah,
I would say consoles are much more rougher than PCs. Yes, we hate downloading a separate launcher, but we definitely hate spending $300 on a console.
True.
Yeah, no, I think it all makes sense, and it is something that you guys put into perspective there a little bit. I think I always thought this, for example, this idea of, okay, when Epic came out and people were going a bit crazy at them, like, for the whole game store, it's just a launcher, just download it and just play. Like, what's the issue? Because if I want to play Halo, for example, I need to go buy an Xbox. If I want to play God of War, I need to go buy a PlayStation. If I want to play Smash Bros, I need to go buy a Nintendo Switch. But like launchers, I don't know. I wanted to say it's completely irrelevant, but I'm not a PC gamer, so I can't really make that statement.
There's a big difference between EA's launcher, Ubisoft's launcher, anyone else's launcher, and Epic's launcher. Epic was obnoxious. When EA actually makes a game, an EA game, let's say FIFA, Need for Speed, whatever, that's on their launcher. When Ubisoft makes their game, you'll see Ubisoft games on the launcher. When it comes to Epic, they're like, that ain't our game. We're gonna buy that. So just so you have to get you a launcher. That is annoying because you make your own game. No one complained about Fortnite being on the Epic Game Store. If anyone did, they have a problem.
But Epic's not unique in that. I missed out on Mass Effect 3 when it first came out because it didn't come on Steam. When EA pulled it into their own ecosystem, and it's such a minor barrier. And I loved Mass Effect 1 and 2, but when it initially came out, I just went, oh, I've got other games to play. I don't need to download a whole new launcher. Just stupidly, eventually, I played it on PlayStation. So I got there in the end, but it's a really minor barrier, but you will lose people every time you do it.
Yes. So it's better to just have a setup already. The problem is Epic did that, got some bad blood with people, and that's the issue. They got a mistake. But the real reason why some people don't like launchers is this controller. You're like, where are you going to go with this? Now, this is a really weird controller. I usually, when I'm trying to play PC games on the go, I use this and use my phone for the streaming, right? Now, the thing is, Steam has a lot of stuff built into that launcher. It's actually a very good launcher where you can customize and make any controller act like an Xbox One controller. This is a generic controller from China. There's no one that supports this controller. But Steam can make it act like an Xbox One controller. With Epic Games, you do not have all the functionality Steam offers. Like, let's say it can allow you streaming, it allows you to access any kind of controller, it has saves and stuff like that. So it's not only, first of all, even worse, it doesn't even launch properly. It's a horrible Internet Explorer like web browser.
Okay, let's hold on. Like, we're turning into an Epic Game Store.
No, but actually, you bring up a really important point there, which just to pull back to Sony.
Yeah.
I still don't understand the reason I can't play my PS5 games on my PS4 DualShock controller. I understand that the PS5 controller does have new functionality, but I don't know any games that would break if they didn't have the haptic feedback. So I don't.
Sony's just like an Apple, aren't they?
Yeah, but if Sony went to the PC, are they going to demand people use a PS5 controller to play the PS5 these games? No, they're not.
Oh, man. That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
See, that's why we rant. It's not that you brought something new or better. The problem is, why are you going this way about it? Yeah. That's the problem. The Epic Game Store, the store isn't the problem. The methodology is the same thing with Sony. Everyone has complained about this controller. I own both of them.
Yeah. But you see, I don't think Sony's going to be as arrogant as they are, because when it's your ecosystem, I think you can do whatever you want to do. The thing about Apple, they do whatever they want to do. They say whatever they want to say. But I think as soon as you step into the PC market, I don't think these are the kind of gamers you can. I don't want to say push around. I don't think they're not going to be as easy. I don't think they don't take smack properly. They probably just abuse you. Yeah. Am I right in that?
You overestimate.
PC gamers. You tell me, man. You're the PC gamer. I'm not one.
Whatever you see it on console, there's nothing better here. The people here just think they're smarter, which is worse.
Damn.
I mean, if you want to insult PC gamers, that's on you.
I'm not going to insult them. I'm just saying I'm among them, and they're obnoxious. Like, just because they built a PC, they think they're, I don't know, like the new Linus or something. It doesn't work. Like, consoles are fine. Like, at least over there, people know we don't know what we're talking about, which is really good.
To bring it back to sort of the core of where this conversation started, you know, I think that what it really comes down to is that PlayStation focuses with their games on being sort of like this premium experience, and they sort of have a very specific idea of the way that they want you to interact with their games. You know, that's why you have to use the DualSense controller instead of an old DualShock. That's why it's only on, you know, PlayStation 5 or not on PC or any of these other places. It's because sort of in their methodology for how they create games, they have sort of, it seems like a very locked idea of like, these are the premier experiences and we know what the best way for you to play them is. And if later down the line, you know, we want to port these to other places so that you can test it out in other ways or whatever, you know, that's one thing. But I feel like that's sort of more or less just, I think that that's sort of just part of their like cultural DNA almost, where it's like, this is where you're going to do the PlayStation things because this is where we have the most control and we can guarantee that it's going to play and look a certain way here.
Sounds very Apple-like.
This is how we make the most amount of money out of you. Like the fact that this thing doesn't have a replaceable battery means this is gonna die and we're gonna make you buy this thing again. When you make it, like it's usually when these people talk about very nice things. Like for example, Nintendo wants a really nice closed environment where you can enjoy the game properly. But it looks horrible on the thing that you're making it on, and it looks infinitely better on PC. I don't think the quality is the problem. I think money is the problem.
Yeah, no, I didn't necessarily mean like, you know, PlayStation is like the best place to play. I just mean that it was like in their methodology, it's like we can focus on just this one place and we can make sure that it runs as well as it's going to here. And then maybe down the road, you know, we can stretch that out. You know, just sort of focusing on a single platform sort of helps the developers, I think, you know, make sure that it's going to work as well as it can.
But I wonder on the optics, what came first though? So we were promised the new God of War would be PS5 only. And then they said, oh no, actually, we're going to be back compatible. So Sony went into this generation so confident with, we believe in generations, we will only be on the next generation. And then they've had such a slew of backtracks of going, oh no, we will do cross-gen. We'll up-res old games and we'll down-res new games and we'll make sure everything works on both. And once you've adapted to that mindset, that's halfway to saying, oh, we'll let anyone run it on any console specs they like. When up till now, when they were very specific of this one game on this one except for a few special cases which cross generations, but the majority of them, one game, one console, one ecosystem, it's optimized. But the moment they said no, we'll be across the PS4 and the PS5 as a family, you have to design the games to make sure they're scalable. And the moment they're scalable, you can surrender control and just say, we'll let the PC market have it.
I don't really think they're letting the PC market have it per se. It's basically like whenever a big developer puts something on Steam, it usually means they're just generating advertisement because it's such a big platform, it'll reach the most amount of people, and they just want to make sure that people know that they're on PC now too. Because they would have just rather used Epic Games where they have shares inside of there. They would have made more money if it was just giving it to the PC market. This seems like specifically an advertisement move. So everyone knows that they're actually now making PC games. Like I could be wrong, but that's the only thing I can get from why did you put it on Steam? Why not just Epic Games? Where it was supposed to be. Yeah.
But I think Steam is just, I mean, like it has a huge user base. And I think if you're going to go PC, you might as well go big. If you're going to do something as controversial as this, you can't really be messing around with GOG or Epic Games. So you either drop it on all those platforms or you just drop it on one and you got to pick Steam. But I think let's tie this back to the release date. Exactly. God of War Ragnarok is coming our way in a couple of months, correct? So if you listen to what Sean Layden said, apparently this was actually his idea when he was back at Sony. He felt everyone in the Sony system is already there. So everyone, everyone who loves the consoles already. Nintendo players are playing Nintendo, Microsoft players are playing Xbox, whatever it is. But he wanted to expand that. And he says the only way to expand that is to actually get gamers from different sides. So he didn't advocate for this idea of dropping games day and date. But it did come up with the idea of, if we can release certain games that have run their course, because God of War sold 19 million right now, it's not really going to sell anything more. But if you can release a God of War on a Steam, and it's going to go crazy, people are going to pre-order it, and you can coincide that with a God of War Ragnarok, they're hoping that you enjoy God of War on Steam. And as a result, you feel tempted to go play God of War Ragnarok. Does that make sense to you guys?
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds really great, but it links to the next topic eventually as well, where no one can buy a PS5. So yeah, we tempted you with something you can't buy. Well, we'll just watch the gameplay of the next game, I guess.
We've got 4 or 5 years, however long the generation is, for them to resolve that problem. But yeah, the thing is, it only works because of how big the PC market is. As you said, if the majority of people can't buy a PS5, but you only need 2% of your audience to have that temptation, and it's worth the money already.
Yeah.
Yeah, because listen, God of War, okay, 19 million sales sold. I got some numbers here. Let's go through real quick. Spider-Man 20 million. Horizon Zero Dawn passed 10 million. And bear in mind, when Horizon was announced on Steam, it sold up to 700k, which matched The Witcher 3's launch, and that's huge. So for Sony, from a Sony point of view, if Horizon has capped, it's sold 10 million. It's not going to sell anything more than that now. Then it makes perfect sense to drop that game on Steam and get 700k, which then feeds back into Sony, because at that point in time, the game isn't really going to do you anything. It's kind of a case of what's this word? What's this economic term? Diminishing returns, isn't it? It's when, you know, the item is there, it's out there, it's been out there for 5 years, it's not going to do anything else for you, so you might as well at this point go drop it somewhere else. And I think it makes perfect sense. That's why I feel like this is a very good idea. It's very, I mean, it's not a coincidence that this is dropping a couple of months before God of War Ragnarok. No. They're hoping everyone plays this game, everyone loves this game. At some point you think this is the best game ever, and you say, I want to play the sequel. Now the question is, how many people are they going to convert? And even if they don't convert anyone to come from PC to the PlayStation 5, they can at least turn around and say, well, we made a lot of money. Because right now, if you go check the highest pre-orders, I think on Steam, it's God of War.
Oh, for sure.
It could also do the unintended consequence of, I ain't gonna buy a console because the rest of the games are coming on PC anyways. I just have to wait. That will also be a problem. Yeah.
So as a PC gamer, for example, right? If you play God of War, actually forget. Okay, let's use God of War and let's use Persona. You love Persona, right?
Yes.
If Capcom releases Persona 5 on the PC, and then Persona 6 comes out on the PS5, and you love Persona 5, are you tempted to go out and buy a PlayStation 5?
No, I'll be like, I just have to wait now. Because first, when a game comes out, in the case of Persona, I'll explain. Persona comes out, the first edition isn't the correct edition. You have to wait for the next edition to come out, which is probably the Royal or whatever edition, which will have the ending that you want to see. Like, I played Persona 4 Gold.
Okay, let's stop. Let's pretend we're not talking about it.
Gaming is in a wasteland where the launch product isn't the correct product. You get what I mean? Like, you go, like, PC gamers know what's going on here. Come on.
This guy's so deep, man.
No, but like, when you never buy a game on launch, it's a trick.
It's a good point, but I do agree with what you're saying though. The you know, if you sort of like, and it's the same reason why a lot of games show up in Game Pass, right? Is, you know, it's used as like an advertising tool for the new game, right? Is they'll be like, hey, I don't know, I think they did it for like Wolfenstein. They're like, hey, Wolfenstein Youngblood is coming out. Here's the first two. It was before they were owned by Xbox. Here's the first two Wolfensteins on Game Pass. You know, play them. And then people were like, great, I'm gonna go. And I'm gonna pre-order the third, Youngblood, because the first two were so good, and then they would have been a little disappointed because Youngblood wasn't great. But the point being, like, it works out as like a really good advertising strategy, and I think that the same thing is true for releasing it on other platforms. Like, you know, we're almost certainly at some point, I think it was already like teased or like leaked or something, that like, you know, in the case of Persona, I think that somebody accidentally put a typo on like the Atlas page that it was coming to Switch or something, and it's like, yeah, people who have heard about it from PlayStation are going to want to play it on Switch if they didn't already have a PlayStation. And if they then go and announce, you know, Persona 6 is coming to PlayStation like a year from now, I think that a lot of people who, you know, don't want to wait for the P6 Royal or whatever, I think that they'll probably just buy it on their PlayStation, you know?
Yeah, I'm completely down with that. You know, I think the interesting thing about this conversation is that because I'm not a PC gamer, I can't really answer these questions. So I'm just going to defer to you guys. Look, Project, I don't know. Like, are you a minority in this sense? Because I'm guessing Sony does believe that this is going to work. I think that's what Sean Layden actually believed was going to work as well. But if it doesn't work, they also turn around and say we made money, because 700. I mean, Horizon selling 700K is huge. And think about it, that's a 5-year-old game or so. So at some point, I'm trying to think this, and maybe you guys could chip in on this. Is it gonna get to a point where these releases are gonna get shorter and shorter? Is it gonna be a case of, you know what, instead of God of War Ragnarok coming out 4 years later on Steam, it's gonna be 2 years and then eventually 1 year? Friend, what do you think of that? What do you think about that?
I used the 1 year length earlier as an example, and I do think that it's not a worry short term. Short term, this is only good for consumers, but long term, it's when you look at when the company commissions a game, they've got a plan of how much money they want to make off that game in the short term, in the first year or 2 years, and every Sony studio is thinking, right, we'll launch on PS5 or PS4, we'll make this much. And then you're right, they're looking at these games which have made the money, they've already cash in hand, and they're going, what else can we do with it? PC's the market, we can make more money, leverage it. But if you reach a point when they're making more than a third of that money off the PC market immediately, then they're building in the expectation these games have to make money off the PC. And then they start shifting and changing the way they approach making the game. And that's the thing that makes Sony's games so special. They are designed to give you an experience. And I don't really do mongering, but look at what's happened to Square Enix. They make over 2/3 of their money off the mobile games market. And no, they are not the same company. It's not that they can't make good console games, but it's not where they see them making the money. And I think in the short term, this is only a great thing. In the long term, I do wonder what this is going to do to Sony. And Project, what you said about will they create their own store? That's the way they maintain their identity. If they want to in the long run, that's what they would have to do.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. The mobile market is crazy. And I'll give an example. Fire Emblem Treehouse for Nintendo Switch did extremely well for them. I think then they released Fire Emblem Echoes for the mobile phone, and in the first year it made 500 million or so. And I think that just shows, I feel like developers are going to start looking at that a lot more. I remember N-Space, and they made a few console games, and at some point they moved to the mobile market because, and I think from one of the interviews I read, it just made a lot more sense. It wasn't that they couldn't make console games anymore, it cost less money, and at the same time you make way more money. So the next point I'll move on to is, do you think this has an element of streaming involved in it? Is Sony looking at this idea that streaming is going to be big? So already people are already going to be able to play their games on a PC and on mobile phones. So if you can't beat them, you might as well join them. Is that a project? I'll go to you on that, because you talked about streaming a bit before.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, is that you guys actually said so many things at the same time that my brain is actually really angry at Nintendo, even though you guys don't know where the Nintendo came in, because they did it. Like, you know how you guys are saying that, look, this thing made its money, the money's done already, let's just make some more money off of it, right? But then they released the Nintendo Switch Online program, where they're releasing emulated games, or only 10 of them and not the rest of them. They've already made the money, but they're still not using it. So like, it seems like companies are not as smart as you guys think. Because at least Nintendo ain't figuring out that if something has already made the money, put it out on your own console. Like, do you guys know about what Nintendo did, or are you guys absolutely
Yeah,
clueless?
I do, and don't want to move into Nintendo discussion, but all I've seen is negative kickback at their pricing
Yeah, it's
strategy.
horrible. So like, I look at how much reason you guys are using, and then I look at these companies. I'm like, do they have those brain cells? Like, maybe we made them smarter than it. So sometimes also, like, let's be real here. Companies usually don't think this much. Like, because I just kept getting Nintendo flashbacks that they didn't think about what they were doing to this extent. Like, I don't think it's mostly about, like, oh, this thing has already made its money. I don't think it's going that route. I think they're just, advertising their game. So in the future, they could sell it. I don't think it's already made its money is their idea. And the other thing is they don't have any PS5s for people to play the game.
Sorry, that's the wrong way of putting it. What I meant was they've got a development budget, and then they've got a target of how much of that budget needs to make back within 6 months. And it's when you design a game to sell it on the PS5, it's got to hit this many sales. But if you say from the moment of inception, when you start making a game, it's got to make this many sales on PS5 and this many sales on PC, you're increasing the target and you're changing the way you design the game in the first place. I'm all in favour of Sony putting catalog on PC. What I'm scared of is them changing the way they approach making the games in the first place.
Oh, actually, the thing is, because you were talking about Sony, it makes like a bit of sense. It's just that I don't like Nintendo. I'm like, you're from the same area, and how are you messing it up? But like, it was just a thing because you guys were speaking so much sense over there that if this is the approach, it makes a lot of sense. That's what I was saying. But there was another company that in this timeline did a mistake that of catastrophic proportions. And I was like, what are you guys doing? So sorry about that. It was just like my brain went to that direction. It didn't need to. And as far as streaming goes, look, Ted, here's the problem. When it comes to streaming and when it comes to Game Pass, my opinions are too different, and they only changed afterwards. So like, I would like to be at the end of that after I hear their opinions on what do they think about streaming and Pass, because I do have some things to ask them as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're gonna move to Microsoft soon. Anything else on Sony? Because I think we're pretty much all in agreement, right? This is a good thing for Sony. This is a good thing for gamers, obviously, first and foremost. I think it makes perfect sense. I think if you're gonna drop this any time, you gotta drop it a couple of months before God of War, because I do think they will pull. They might not take that much, but I do think they will pull some PC gamers into being interested into God of War and God of War Ragnarok. It just kind of makes sense. If you end up playing God of War and you think it's an amazing game, which it is an amazing game, if you think it's like, if it's your first time playing it, you might think it's Game of the Year contender. And if that's the case, and if you're a PC gamer, I do feel you'll pull some. You guys might disagree on that. I think you actually have a valid point for disagreeing, because I'm not a PC gamer, obviously. But I think it makes sense, and I think it makes sense for Sony to drive up the hype. I think it keeps God of War momentum in the news. So yeah, we're in agreement. Good news.
Yeah. This is good. I don't see the bad in it. Yeah.
Daniel, how about you? Good news?
I keep having to mute myself because there's an airplane doing sky donuts above my apartment.
I don't know if you heard, but I got fireworks as well going on. I mean, it's just a time of the year.
It's a day. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that it's, across the board, it's a positive thing for them, regardless of what their reasoning for is. I think that it's generally a positive for consumers as well, just to, have the game in more places. Whether they want to double dip and then play it on PC and maybe like then go and mod it like someone was saying, or crank up the specs to whatever. Like I think it's just it can only be good for both the game and for the consumers, regardless of what the business decisions behind it are. The one thing that I will say is that we were talking about the numbers and I hadn't really realized it before, is that God of War's at, like, I think you said it was like somewhere nearing 20 million sales.
Correct.
Yeah, and the PS4 is at, I think, 120. There's that airplane again. 120 million in console sales. Does that mean there's 100 million people who bought the PlayStation and didn't bother with God of War? Like, that's wild to me.
They're mostly playing FIFA.
I guess so.
Yeah. FIFA
I live in the country where people play FIFA and Call of Duty. I know.
Huh? But you see, Jim Ryan said it himself as well. Like, for 20 million sales is good.
It was great.
It's great, but like when you look at the numbers, you start to think, and I guess that's why he's thinking now. It's bigger than this. We can't keep these amazing games to one platform. It just doesn't make sense. Like, you're leaving money on the table. So for me, if I was Jim Ryan, I'd be doing exactly the exact same thing. I would be dropping God of War, maybe not day and date. I think I'll give it a couple of years. But there's gonna be a point where these consoles are not really gonna exist in the same sense anymore. They're not gonna be as important. There's gonna be a point when the internet's gonna be good. There's gonna be a point where nobody really cares for this console war situation kind of crap, and it's just gonna be deliver the games to the client ready. And I think that's when the real money comes in. And I know, for example, that's what I think Stadia is looking to do, something like that. Google, sorry, I should say. They're trying to get to the position, and I think I'm wondering if Sony and Google are gonna have conversations, because I know Microsoft and Sony were having these conversations earlier on about using Azure, sorry. And if Stadia is using this idea, if Google is using this idea that, hey, you can stream directly to your clients, you can go on our website, just click a button. You don't need to pay any 30% fee to any console holder, because if I'm Take-Two, if I'm Ubisoft, if I'm any of these publishers, that's exactly what I'm doing. Why am I playing Sony? Sorry, hold on a second. I think Ken Wall just joined. So I'll say this quick. Why am I paying Sony 30%? Why am I paying Steam 30%? Why am I paying all these guys 30%? At some point, I'm just gonna do it myself. I'm just gonna go directly to you, and you're gonna pay. And you never even know. Maybe, just maybe, because I don't gotta pay that 30%, I'll make it cheaper. You can get it directly from me for what, $50, 45. If you want to buy on PlayStation, it's gonna be 60. So who knows? I think that's where things are gonna go.
That's exactly
why
digital stores open up in PC. That is, you just summarized how they sell your product.
Ken, your signal's a bit off, man.
Are we back?
I have no idea. Like, he joined and he like crashed the whole system. Can you hear me? Yeah.
He's hacked in.
Oh, signal's horrible, man. Can you guys hear me, right? Or is this gone?
I can hear you. I can't hear him. Wait, what just happened? Yeah, I don't know either.
Oh, he's messed up the whole stream.
Single mute.
It's the stream equivalent of photobombing.
The chat can hear us.
Dude,
Wantelu says he can hear us, but I don't know about. Can you guys hear me though? I can't even hear.
I can hear you.
Yeah. We can hear you. I'm pretty sure. It's just that he was a problem. I find it amusing that he came from Battlefield and that thing was a complete mess, and he brought the mess along with him completely.
Oh no.
Okay, I don't know what's going. I don't know what's going on there, man. I don't know how he managed to do that 3 times, but that's.
Is there a limit? Like,
no, see, he can hear us, but I don't know. As soon as I put him into the stream, like everything just crashes, it gets destroyed. But I'll move on to the next topic, and I'll try and get him in real quick. Friend, you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, let's talk Game Pass, guys. Let's talk Game Pass and Microsoft. So, in a new financial statement spotted by Axios, Microsoft revealed that Xbox Game Pass subscriptions rose by 37.5, falling short of its initial target of 47.8. In contrast, last year, Microsoft overperformed on its targets to grow Xbox Game Pass, increasing subscriptions by nearly 86% over a goal of 71. Now, I'm not too concerned about last year. Let's focus on this year. They didn't reach their target, which I find interesting, because when we think about Microsoft, I only really care about their Game Pass metric, because they don't focus on consoles. So if they don't focus on consoles, then I don't need to focus on consoles too. That's an irrelevant metric. I mean, it does say something, but it's not something I'm really looking towards.
Yeah, especially right now with the fact that like every console that can be made is being sold by or bought by scalpers and just stacked in a warehouse somewhere. Like the console sales numbers right now just really don't mean anything to me.
Well,
But
there's one thing I question on that, but I'll bring it up later.
oh, okay. I'm excited for it now. I'm getting buzzed. Hold on 1 second.
I brought Nintendo up for this reason too. I'm really glad we came to Game Pass now, because Nintendo is really relevant with their whole subscription thing to the Game Pass. I was just kind of waiting on it.
Ken, are you there now? Can you talk? Can you participate? Ken walk.
Yo, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're back, man.
There we go.
Man, I don't know what kind of juju you did there to mess up the whole freaking stream.
Bro, I don't know what this app is. I thought we were going on Discord. I thought this was, when did you guys start recording this? When did you guys go live?
This was a while ago, man. You just showed up really late,
bro. Whoa, hold on. I got the receipts. For today, right? For today, my time right now, it's 4:13.
Yeah, no, I said this is 8. Oh, you know what? It's irrelevant. Let's get straight to Game Pass, though. Let's get straight to Game Pass.
I'm like, I'm not late. I don't like to be late for stuff. I'm like, wait, this seems like I'm late for some. I definitely seem late for this. So I'm like, what's going on?
Nah, you're good, man. This is Ireland and this is the States. So, I mean, it's always going to happen. So, but listen, man, we're talking Game Pass. Microsoft didn't reach their targets for Game Pass. I think that's a very important metric. And my first question would be, why didn't they meet their Game Pass, and what does this mean for Microsoft going forward? And as soon as you just joined, I'm gonna put this to you first. What are your thoughts on it?
I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, I like, obviously it is, but I don't think this hurts Game Pass. I still think Game Pass, like, this isn't gonna go like, oh my God, Game Pass isn't what everyone thought it was going to be. It's still early. It's still very early for Game Pass. We're now seeing the potential of what it could turn into. It's still, and it didn't, just because it didn't hit their target doesn't mean it didn't grow. It still grew 37%. Yeah. And Klaus Zelnick, a couple months, or was it a month ago, he said they're at 30 million subscribers. So I don't think this is something to sound the alarms, if you get what I mean.
No, not at all. I agree 100% with what you're saying. It's so, to me, it's two things, right? So obviously we measure growth with these sorts of things in terms of percentage, which means that as the number of subscribers, there's that airplane again. Every time I talk, it just comes back. I think it's Jim Ryan up there celebrating all those sales numbers. Anyway, so okay, we measure it in percentage, which means that every time that the overall number goes up, the amount that each one hold on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, man, just pause. Just pause.
You're not allowed.
We'll
Jim Ryan won't fly away.
We'll get back to you.
He's having a blast up there. I hope he's gone, at least for a minute.
All right, go ahead, man. Fire away.
So percentage goes up, so 1% means more, right? And so, I think maybe that I'm not going to say they didn't account for that. Obviously, they have like people who do this professionally, so they did. But I think it's a combination of that with the fact that with the pandemic starting last year, that number shot up like crazy, like way higher than they thought that it would, because there were so many more people just sitting at home, not having a ton of money to spend on games. So they were like, okay, well, I'll get Game Pass, and then I got all these games, and I can just have this backlog for just ride out this pandemic in style, right? And with the thing continuing to go on, there's more and more people who already have Game Pass, so they have to, so there's less people who then could potentially get it, who are being, exposed to the conversation around Game Pass. And so, yeah, it's definitely a thing of like diminishing returns, but I don't think it's like a big negative. I mean, it's still going up 30 whatever % is huge.
Yeah, but I think the main thing I'm looking for is, and I think we might all probably know the answer to this is, and Fred remembers, I'll go to you on this. Why didn't they reach their target? Like, what are the main reasons for that? Is that because Microsoft is just thinking too big? Are they like overreaching, or are they factors that we need to consider?
Well, what did Project say earlier? Companies aren't as smart as guys sitting in an armchair talking about. No, companies set targets and they're just waving their finger in the air going, we think it'll be this. And last year they underestimated. This year they overestimated. That's not a problem. It's only a problem if they do it 3 years in a row. The thing that interests me is we don't have enough information to know what this means. We know there are 30 million people with Game Pass, and that's not as much of a bigger number compared to what it was 6 months ago as Microsoft wanted. But that's current subscribers. How many of those people are subscribers who have had an Xbox One and upgraded? How many of those people who had an Xbox One and haven't upgraded and have lapsed? How many of them are brand new with a Series X, and how many of them are brand new on PC? We spoke earlier about people not wanting a new game launcher on their PC. Some people being more than happy to have multiple launchers and other people going for just one. I've never seen Microsoft publicly say what percentage of Game Pass users have the Ultimate Pass versus just the console or just the PC only. And without that knowledge, I know you said console sales numbers don't matter, but they sort of do, because I don't know what percentage of Game Pass people are coming from the Series X, which did reasonably well, versus the new console, which is being scalped to heaven. Versus, I think the PC subscriber base is stable. We can look at that and say, the more Microsoft grows the PC market, excellent. But they are also dependent on the console market. And the people who have a Series X who don't, the people who have an Xbox One who don't progress to Series X, that could be people lapsing. And yes, they are currently being outperformed by people who are joining, but we don't know what this means for next year. It's absolutely not a problem. This is only good news for this year. But we don't know enough data about what's behind there to actually work out what's going on.
The project, I see you nodding, so I'm guessing you want to try to say something.
No. When I want to say yes, right, this is the Asian problem. We usually nod, like so to make sure that we're attentive, so people don't think we're dozing off. It's a mistake, yeah. Like
okay, I mean, I'm gonna go real quick, but I think K Asante pretty much said it there. All this was made before the targets, which is Halo, was delayed. And the reason why I think it's pretty clear to me, because I had this discussion with someone else earlier about this. It didn't reach the targets really because the truth is Game Pass, it's great, but it's really lacking those games. There is no really killer app on that system at all. I'm thinking, okay, when Forza comes out and Halo comes out, it's going to be great. But right now, if I was to tell you that God of War or Spider-Man is dropping on Game Pass day one, it's huge. Like, that's going to drive subscribers. There's no game on Game Pass that I see that is going to drive subscribers. Is there any from you guys? Like, do you look at Back 4 Blood and you think you're going to sign up for that? Do you think look at Avengers? Like, those games don't scream, let's go. And the truth for me is, I know you mentioned, friend, that the console metric doesn't really matter. And the reason why you mentioned it matters, but the reason why I think it doesn't really matter is because Microsoft is fully aware that with this Game Pass model, with the xCloud model, with putting the games on the PC, the consoles are going to be affected. Of course, they're going to be affected. And it's not something you need to really shine a light on if you feel like you're actually gonna like hurt that. So what I think the best example is the fact that, like, I can't remember what it said in the article, but it says that, like, the executives, they're measured on how Game Pass performs, not on how console performs, because I think they're fully aware that it's not as relevant. It doesn't necessarily, if you sell 20 million consoles and you tell Microsoft they're like, okay, fine, but you have 14 million Game Pass subscribers, they'll take that every single day over any console metric. Because remember, like, on the Xbox Series X, if they sell that, they're already losing consoles. I'm sorry, they're already losing profits on that. So for me, I think it's pretty simple. Either Microsoft just overshot, but I don't think they did, because as K. Asante pointed out, these numbers are based on the fact that they believed Halo and Forza was going to drop. And those games didn't drop. But if Halo drops, it's going to drive Game Pass subscribers. If Forza drops, it's going to drive those subscribers too as well. Any thoughts on that, the project?
See, there are too many thoughts on that, and I don't know where to begin with this one. Because, man, the problem is, right, for you guys, like, maybe Game Pass is something new, right? But we're kind of sick of these subscription systems because we have too many on PC. So, like, for us, it's just another thing, right? Yeah, like, it's not an abnormal thing for us to have something like a different store. I know most console people don't know what that is, but we have them. So multiple different subscriptions isn't, like, locked to a single console to us. The problem I have is, first of all, could you answer one question? If I were to, like, let's say, does anyone of you guys do sports?
Yeah.
Used to.
We used to.
Used to, right? So what is your favorite sport? Just give me any sport that you like. The one that you played.
Baseball.
Baseball. Okay, there you go. So let's go with this. If you were to be given, like, let's say you can go to a court, right? Any area, right? And you can give a subscription to be able to play any of these, all the sports that exist. Or you can give us a one-time payment. It's a bit expensive, but for baseball, which one would you pick?
I don't.
No, exactly. Like because one of the things that we do is, right, is like we say this is the Netflix of games. If we could get this, we could get this, right? But we're comparing games to shows. Our games shows that you just watch them in 1 or 2 hours or in a few settings and they're over. Or our games, they also implement, like, they also have a story, but they're also kind of like a game, which is why they're called one. So let's say you enjoyed baseball a lot. Will you be coming back for it over and over again? Even though it's the same repetitive motion, would you come back for it?
Well, I don't know that this is a great example.
No, see, I see the point he's trying to make, and I disagree with the point because the thing about Game Pass is that, like, you can be the Netflix of games.
Yeah.
The only reason why we're having this conversation is because Game Pass doesn't really have those games that drives you. Because I'll give you right now, right. When I was a kid, Blockbuster. You know, I used to go to these guys, and let me put it in a different framework for you. I was having this conversation with a friend about Game Pass, and he went straight up and was like, "Oh no, this is bad. This doesn't make sense." And I was like, "I don't know what you mean."
This wasn't me,
man.
by the way.
No, it wasn't him.
Yes.
It wasn't him. And he thought Game Pass, he just couldn't understand how it doesn't work. And I said, yeah, but like when you were a kid though, you did Blockbuster, right? Like you paid $4 or whatever for like a weekend. So imagine that at a bigger scale. Microsoft is telling you, like, we're gonna give you all this, but you see, I think the main point is the price. If Game Pass is $30, it's probably still a good deal or whatever, yeah. But it's 10 to 15, and I feel like that's okay because we're having this discussion, yeah. But like when Elder Scrolls drops, when Starfield drops, when Halo drops, when the big names drops, I don't think we're talking about this anymore. I think right now we're looking at it and we say, okay, it got Back 4 Blood. Okay, that's cool. It has this other game. That's all right. But the value is already there. But like, imagine what happens when these big names drop. Like if Sony had a... Sorry, Ken, go ahead.
No, my bad. I want to go after you.
If Sony has the version of Game Pass right now, right? I don't think anyone's having this discussion because you're thinking Spider-Man's just dropped on it. You're thinking Horizon just dropped on it. You know what I mean? You're thinking God of War just dropped on it. These are huge games. So I'll be upfront about it. Game Pass is great, but it might not be for me per se because I only buy maybe a couple of games a year. So in that sense, it doesn't really necessarily make sense for me per se.
Right.
But I think we can't forget about everybody else who's really into this system, who actually plays games. Like I got a Flamin right now, like he plays games 24/7. Game Pass is perfect for him. Right. You know, he wanted to play Dragon Quest. And I told him, like, no, man, don't buy that on PlayStation, just get it on Game Pass, it's right there. And he couldn't understand the concept that like he could pay a subscription service and not just get Dragon Quest for like, you know, a few months or whatever, but get all that with all these games. So I think that's really the thing with Game Pass right now. It's just that it doesn't have, whenever I see this kind of debate, it really has to do with the fact that like it doesn't have the right games for some people at the moment. But man, they're coming.
And that's why I really love that. Or sorry, you go ahead. You were waiting already.
Yeah, like the best way I compare Game Pass right now, and I think I think people are being a little unfair to it, is it's literally Netflix. The beginning. People are forgetting how Netflix was. Like Netflix was just getting movies and TV shows from already established stuff. Like there was no Squid Games. It took them a long time to get Stranger Things. All their hits, Queen's Gambit. It takes them a long time to get that stuff. So like right now, they're just they're in the phase of the beginning. This is just the beginning phases, like Netflix, where they're just getting a few properties. Like, for example, I think today they confirmed the GTA Definitive Edition is coming on Game Pass. So we know how Take-Two, that partnership is. It's probably not going to be on Game Pass forever, but that's a pretty big bump right now. But we know Xbox, my biggest gripe with Xbox is they've got a lot of studios to make Game Pass really good. Like, they could get a really good rollout with they got a really good. I just hope they don't mess it up. I just hope they can focus on the studios they have and get some games rolling out.
Right. And so that's why I really like the sort of blockbuster analogy that was being used earlier, is because, like, right now what it is that Game Pass has this really great, huge catalog of games. It's just not necessarily the most exciting new games, right? Like, there's a lot of games that I played on Game Pass that I would have completely overlooked, like Dragon Quest, like Hollow Knight, and I love a lot of those games and would not have played them otherwise. So, like, Game Pass is definitely really good for me for that reason, especially as a content creator. You know, I want to try to experience, you know, all the games that people are talking about, and those were two that I had definitely missed out on.
Hey man, I'll throw the same for you real quick, because Microsoft has dropped some stats, and apparently, you know, people play more games on Game Pass than they just do. I mean, they spend longer playing games on Game Pass than they do, like, if they just bought it as well. So there you go. Like, it's easy for us to say these things, and it's easy for me to say, oh, well, it doesn't work that way. But when Microsoft Stats comes out and they say, no, you're wrong. Like, you know, people are actually using the service, people are actually interacting with many different games. And you pointed out very clear, was it Dragon Quest you said you played?
Yeah. That's
you know, like, listen, Back 4 Blood is a game that I would never probably buy. I'll probably never touch. But
I was playing it right before this. I would not have spent $60 on it. But I gave it a shot. I think it's decent, you know?
I think it's a very fun Game Pass game. I have a lot of fun with it. Like, because it's free, I'm like, I don't have to be forced to play it or enjoy it. Like,
exactly. You know what I mean? And I do, you know, I also agree with the thing where it's like, you know, we're looking at it in a time where, you know, they haven't necessarily had, you know, all of their guns going off, right? I mean, you look at just the release of Xbox first party games this year, and two of the big ones that are out so far are both on PlayStation. One is exclusive to PlayStation, being Deathloop. Like, Psychonauts and Deathloop are both going to be in different people's Game of the Year conversations. So when all of these studios are then, you know, next year, the year after that, making games that are launching day one in Game Pass, I do think that this conversation changes. But as for right now, you're 100% correct.
The project, go ahead, man. I see you wanted to talk.
When you were in the past with Blockbuster and stuff like that, did you have Fortnite or Dota or anything like that?
No.
I had Dark
No,
Cloud.
so that means games were still developing and maturing, right? And they were turning into something new. Was that not the case? Was gaming what it is right now all the way in the past when you were renting games?
No, but carry on. I want to see where this goes.
So here's where it's going. So you're comparing it, like, okay, remember Blockbuster, where you could rent games in the era where there was no Fortnite, Call of Duty, and all of that stuff going after your attention? Remember before multiplayer, how we used to rent games? I'm like, yeah, but what after multiplayer? Now we buy one game and we don't stop playing it. Because the problem now is, like, you can get, like, let's say if people play Warzone, that's it, they're getting Warzone. They're going to be like, you can play 6 billion different games if you buy this for $15. And you're like, no, but I want to buy the skin for 10. What are you going to do now? Because they're like, my friends are all here. Because what we do is we take gaming as, this is a nice narrative experience where we can be in. It's a sandbox. Like, have you ever seen what people do? Did you see what happened to, Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk on PC? The things that they did to that guy. It's a sandbox. Like, you can do anything. You take the character model out, play around with him, and then throw him back. Like, that's what you can do. So when we take, like, could you ever do it? Let's say you watch Squid Games, okay? You watch Squid Games. Now what do you do? Well, just watch it again. That's the maximum you can do. So being told you need to spend 30, 40, 50 or whatever amount of money, or like very expensive amounts of money, or like ordering it from another country just to watch it, that seems like a big stretch. But now when you can buy, let's say Skyrim, and Skyrim can offer you 1,000 hours with mods, are you going to stop playing Skyrim, or are you going to go for a game that you're not that attached to? Which route would you take? Because the thing is, I understand the blockbuster argument because I'm also from the past. But I've also seen one Pokemon Ruby be modded to oblivion and people are still playing it. So if they could just buy that one game and have community mods for it, that would be the second thing that you guys are talking about. I would never play Back 4 Blood. Also, that means you would normally just buy games you wouldn't buy here. You're not after quality games, you're after bad games, because if it was a good game, you would have bought it.
No, but
and you would be playing it. No. So that's another problem. Third problem. But you're like, oh yeah, Game Pass is really good, but where's God of War? Well, you didn't even comment on Pokemon. It seems like you just want Sony to make Game Pass. Because that's
you know what? Let's. I mean, you're saying a lot of points here, so I think we'll tackle the first one first. Friend,
I'm holding it in. I'm like, wait a second, there are problems here. We must talk.
Yeah. Okay. I think the main point you're trying to make is there's this idea of like games now that release they want to take your time. So think of an Assassin's Creed kind of game, right? So you buy the game and then you play that game forever. I think the issue with that statement though is that you're implying that everyone thinks like that. Because if that was the case, then God of War, Horizon, Spider-Man, all these games, Mario's, Zelda, people's catalogs wouldn't be that big. But I think that's false because I think they are. I think people
FIFA.
play. I think you say FIFA, but that's I think that's a segment, but there is a strong segment that likes this kind of games. For example, I can almost say that, like, for example, I have Horizon, I have God of War, I guess I have Spider-Man, I guess I have all these games. I also have FIFA. Now I have a cousin who would only play FIFA, but that's almost irrelevant. He doesn't need to get Game Pass. He's not a gamer in that sense. You get what I'm trying to say? So I think you're taking a segment of the gaming community and you're trying to like make it seem like that's everybody, which I don't believe. For example, I'll give you a perfect example, right? You, how many games do you have? Like over 10, over 20, 30?
Which one are you talking about? Just me?
Yeah, just you.
I'm a nut over 200.
Exactly. So exactly, you're not a FIFA guy. Whereas my cousin, he would look at that and be like, "What the 200 games? Like, are you crazy? Game Pass is for you."
Can I also here?
Man.
I want to hear him talk because he's fun.
Let me just go real quick to what Kane Santa says. I think he says he mentioned that Game Pass is great. I can't really find it now, but he mentioned that Game Pass is great for him. And I think
the dad comment. Yeah, I read that.
The dad comment. Yeah, I'm trying to locate that.
So the project, just to bring you back to your comment, but there is a fundamental problem in PC gaming that Steam doesn't have the answer to, which is these smaller experiences. There are some that every now and then Steam pulls up a couple of good games that have got really good reviews that people have fallen in love with, but there's too much brilliant stuff gets lost on Steam. It just disappears into the ether, never makes its money back. And this isn't unique to Steam. It also happens on Sony, it happens on Nintendo, it happens everywhere. But the answer to try and make sure that these smaller class brilliant experiences don't get lost and swamped by the CODs and the FIFAs of the world, Sony's approach has been to make them these small experiences big and AAA. So God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, these are experiences that only exist because Sony said we will use them as prestige games. We'll make brilliant games that sell our console. I'm just looking at the phone you're showing us.
Yes, because this is an answer I want to show you too, but I first have to listen to everything you're saying because you're on point.
Sony's response is to take those style of games and turn them into prestige experiences so they can claim they're worth $60. Microsoft's answer is Game Pass. This is what they're doing. They're paying the studios up front, saying, we believe we want to make a game. We'll give you this much money to put it on Game Pass. You won't get any extra revenue depending on how many people play it, but you know you'll get this much. So the studio takes the money, they make the game, they release it. And they then don't have to worry about competing with FIFA. They don't have to worry. That's Microsoft's problem. The point is they can make something unique and true to their own vision, which if you just let them compete with FIFA, they wouldn't be able to. So I get what you're saying, but there are different audiences and different consumers. And the worry without Game Pass, I actually admire Microsoft for this. It's their answer of how they get a diverse ecosystem of games that if they left it to the market, you would just get the FIFAs and the CODs.
I agree a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. I never said Game Pass is bad.
No.
Not accusing you of that.
Yeah, I never, like, if I say Game Pass is so bad, let's kill it. That's a separate thing. I'm just going on a different side over here. Because we're talking about that it didn't meet expectations. So if it didn't meet expectation, that means it sold a lot. Even with scalping, it still worked. So we're not talking about how it didn't work. We're talking about how it worked. But now what are those expectations that it might have not met? So it's more along those lines, right? As in, it's working, but why not so perfectly? Because you would assume, see, back then, there was no such thing as Netflix. But when you call something Netflix for games, people should already know what a Netflix is, and they should just rush forward. So that's one thing. Secondly, you're absolutely correct. I've already seen this happen, though. So mobile gaming, that if you want to see a death sentence, right, it's just mobile gaming, right? Apple actually came forward and made this thing called Apple Arcade. And I actually play on this, right? So the idea was there are gems in the App Store, and those never get seen, because they're all messed with all of these gacha games and stuff like that. So you never get to see the real games that actually exist. So their idea is we're going to now do this, and this will actually give you access to a lot of games, right? Now, what the problem is, with Game Pass, what is the revenue split? How do you split money? On what basis do you split money? Yeah.
Like Phil Spencer said, it all depends.
They do it like
it all depends, right? Because if it's on Playtime, then you're going to go to another mess. If it's not on Playtime, so we don't have access to that much information. But I can tell you already that basically what they did was they just brought their gacha games over here as well. So that's one negative way of going about it. For including Playtime, there's only one way to go. Secondly, you're absolutely correct about most people not actually getting a chance to really, really good games that you're getting. Like, for example, Nexomon. Most people have heard of a Pokemon. They've never heard of Nexomon. Have you guys heard of Nexomon? Like, any one of you?
I'm not sure that I'm hearing the full word.
Nexomon. Nexomon. And
sounds like a ripoff, man.
It sounds like a ripoff. There's another problem. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, not Temtem. I not that one. Nexomon is actually pretty cool. Okay, I have the story and stuff, and no one's gonna play it even if I scream about it. See, yeah, there are a lot. They don't call it. People call it that. Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. Like, that's absolutely true. I'm just like the internet. Usually, what the internet is, that ends up being true. Like, even if it's a game's really good and people call it shit, it will not sell. Mm-hmm. The internet is really scary. Public opinion can change a lot. So that's absolutely true.
But I think so. The main thing here is like the reason why they didn't meet expectations is I think it's just because Halo unfortunately didn't drop in during that period of time.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, I think, and and let's say it did, and it didn't meet expectations. Well, there's always a chance that the company just overshooting. We know, for example, Square Enix expected a lot more from Tomb Raider, from the Tomb Raider games. Mm-hmm. So I think, we can look at these things in on a smaller scale from a tactical point of view, yeah. But I think the main plan, the grand plan, is to when they get to the point where they can have 60, 70 million subscribers. I think that's the main focus. The long-term plan, the lost leading position is that it's going to get to a point where their market is going to primarily be maybe focusing on Game Pass. Like, let's be real. Nearly 30 million subscribers is huge. It's a lot. Now, it might not be financially feasible at this moment in terms of them making a profit, and I think that's perfectly fine. Keep in mind, these companies, they all take loss leading positions on a normal basis. Like, when did Amazon start making money? When did Netflix start making money? When did let me not say Disney? They're loaded.
Disney's never stopped making money, and they never will.
I feel like whenever an emerging market starts, you get in there, and you get in there fast. So when everybody realizes, when it's time they're all playing catch up, like Netflix, 200 million subscribers, right? Everyone's playing catch up to that. And the only company that could pretty much catch up to them is Disney, because they have the IPs. So Game Pass didn't meet expectations. I'm not too worried about it. I don't think it's not an issue. I think Microsoft is in a financial position that like they don't even need to think about this like that.
Oh, no, that's not the problem. See, the thing is, I'm just trying to go from a different angle of that not every player acts the same way. So what I was trying to show you is just with the excuse of this title, you got to understand 10% is nothing. Like, I know that. What I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to show that gaming is not entirely the same. And the other problem is, actually, one commentator there was pretty smart. He said Apple Arcade has exclusives. The only problem is I think he didn't know about the Plus Series games. But now they're releasing Plus Series games, which are just App Store games, so you can buy them separately as well. But
also, there is one thing that I'll say real quick. you know, we talk about how many hours we play these games. You know, I'm subscribed to Netflix, and I'll tell you straight up, like, I don't even watch it every month. Sometimes I might get 2 hours or 3 hours in there. Like, you know, I had someone tell me literally like, oh, Spotify is such a joke because, you know, I feel like I only listen to 2 songs a month and I shouldn't give them €10. But like, that's the model, because if that's the model, you're gonna play crazy games, you're gonna play crazy amount of hours, but there's gonna be someone out there who's subscribed to Game Pass who's not. And I think that's where the money comes from as well. You have to get these people who are maybe casual, like, and they're not going to go crazy, because I mean the casuals are part of the market, correct?
Right. And I think that's huge for when you consider like the inclusion of the EA, was it EA Play, EA All Access, whatever. You know, because a lot of those casuals are casual. I don't mean that as an insult, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The people who are more casual gamers, you know, they tend to be the ones who are playing like, you know, sports games or Call of Duty. And, you know, if you can say like, hey, we might not have the newest FIFA, but we've got all the old ones in there and you can play them as much as you want, as long as you just keep the subscription. You don't even have to bother having, you know, you play it on your phone, you play it on your PC, you can do whatever you want. I think that's really big. It's going to bring people in. And then once they're in that ecosystem, then they're going to start seeing games that they might not have necessarily played, like, you know, the smaller things like Hollow Knight, whatever. And then maybe they become less casual of gamers. You know what I mean? And then another point that I wanted to make, sorry, 1 second, was just that like we were talking about how, you know, sometimes a lot of games get really buried in different things, right? And I don't even think we need to necessarily go into like Apple Arcade or anything like that. You know, we can just look at, you know, next February where there's like there's what 15, 20 games that have all gotten delayed and are all releasing that month, right? And a lot of them I think are probably going to get lost in the shuffle, right? Because you've got things like you've got Killers coming out that month. You've got the second Horizon game. You've got, I think Dead by Daylight is supposed to come out in there. Like there's
Dying Light.
Dying Light. That's what I meant. Sorry. But you know, there's going to be some that get lost in there. But if some of those are on Game Pass, and I don't have, like, I work a retail job. I make $15 an hour. Like, I don't have the money to buy every single game that I want to play that comes out in February. But if some of them wind up in Game Pass, then I'm going to get a chance to play them. And, you know, maybe then the next time that, like, a DLC for it drops or the sequel to it drops or whatever, you know, that's something that I'm going to want to engage with where I may not have otherwise had the chance.
Yes,
that's gonna be the new thing. I'll wait till Game Pass.
Yeah,
it's gonna be the new thing.
Yeah.
Like it is. Like I can already like hear people saying that. I'll just wait till it drops on Game Pass.
Yes, but like we already have a term like this on PC, which is called "I'll wait for the Steam sale."
That's true too.
Yeah, which we have usually, right? No, but we buy it and we have it. Then we don't have to worry about a subscription, because on Steam sale stuff gets really, really cheap. Ridiculously cheap.
Yeah, like, it's not as extreme, but you do have that on every other console.
Yes.
I got the Spider-Man PS4 game for under £10, whereas if I bought it on launch,
exactly
6 times.
So, yes, the games actually get cheaper over time. But Friend's argument is so good. Yeah, that's actually true. But Friend's argument is actually so good. What do you do about games that get buried down? And the argument is like, there's nothing you can do. Now, Apple Arcade couldn't save every single game out there because now you have to go to this one specific publisher, hope to God that it can get on Game Pass. Either way, you're stuck. Gaming requires a lot of luck in some games that become popular too late. Fortnite and Among Us became popular late. Like people realized what the game was too late. So it's not an abnormal thing. And the second thing is that when we're talking about Game Pass on how I could get all of these games for a certain amount of money, right? Just for $15, it would be great. That seems like a pricing issue. This seems like if you're making games $70, people can no longer afford them. It seems like a pricing issue. And if the argument is the development requires a lot of cost, then games should be scaled down because some of the most popular games out there are like PUBG Mobile. So
yeah, but like, I think games are scaled down though. I don't think, you know, like we have the indie market.
They're pretty expensive. No, games like God of War are not being made without a lot of money being spent.
No. God of War. But what I mean is like, you know, I think the indie market steps in there. You know, I don't think.
No, but we're not. Like the thing is, whenever you talk about Game Pass, you talk about God of War, right? So those kind of games are impossibly hard to make.
No. Those are the games that gets people in per se. But then it's I mean, like God of War sold 20 million, so clearly a lot of people want to play that game. But it doesn't mean like a Celeste doesn't keep you playing in Game Pass. You know what I mean? You would try you would get in there for God of War, but at the same time, maybe Back 4 Blood, you give it a try. Maybe you realize it's crazy fun with your friends, and then you stay there still. I mean, like you might sign up to Netflix to watch The Witcher, and then you say, you know what, I'm gonna give these other series a try. I'm gonna give Squid Game a try. So I think it's not just a case of, okay, fine, we've got you in. It's like, how do we keep you in the ecosystem?
Yeah.
And you do that with big games, you do that with small games. I mean, I'll straight up right now, I'm not gonna go buy FIFA, but if it's on Game Pass, I'll stay for FIFA. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, it's two different.
See, with the case of FIFA or something like that, maybe like no. Even then, it's too expensive. Just like, let me put it this way: I think the idea of like watching Squid Games and then watching The Witcher on Netflix is the same as, let's say, playing The Witcher. I think that distinction needs to be made. That it's not exactly like watching a show. It's not a one-time thing. Wait a second. Yeah, and the other
that's for sure true.
The comment also makes a lot of sense. So sometimes I read the comments.
Microsoft is supplementing games development in some cases. That's why they're in a unique position to make this work. No other company can burn that much money.
Yes, absolutely. Just like Nintendo was in this special position to make something like the Wii U. But in the case of Microsoft, they made a far better bet. Because the good thing about Game Pass is because it's a massive, like you can play the whole game for a month. Now do you want to buy it? I don't look at the Game Pass in any other way besides this. It's a giant area where you can test the game. And if you like the sandbox, you can purchase it. That's how I look at it. And some games can take a lot of benefits, the games people wouldn't normally not played. But I still think it's like a testing ground. It's not like the replacement for gaming. It's a supplement to gaming. It cannot be anything more than that. I don't know how that would even work.
You're making some bold claims here. Like, what are you talking about?
No, like it can be only a supplement because you can't replace owning.
No, I get you. I get what you're saying.
I agree with the core of that. I think, like, like I have Game Pass. I love Game Pass. But like I'm still always going to be buying games and playing them that way.
Yeah.
There's always going to be games that don't come to Game Pass that I buy that way. And there's going to be games like, I did this with Hollow Knight. Like it was in there and I played it and I loved it. And then it was like, hey, this is leaving Game Pass. Do you want to buy it now when you have the like Game Pass discount? I was like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm buying that and I'll buy all the DLC. That game's great. So I agree with what you're saying for sure as far as that's concerned.
I mean, I will say this, yeah. I think Microsoft I think they're looking at the analytics, and they're trying to get to a position where you might not feel like you need to buy any other game. Don't get me wrong, the competition is always going to bring out like the Zeldas and the Metroid or whatever, so that might tempt you, but they want to basically take your time, and I mean that in a good way. So I'll give you an example, right? When I was a kid, and I think this is the key thing right here. Yeah? We're focusing on ourselves. We're not focusing on the actual game, the video game market, right?
When I was a kid, we're hardcore too.
Yeah. When I was a kid, right? When I was a kid, if I told my mom, honestly, like truthfully right now, if I told my mom, like, listen, you don't need to buy me any other game, just give me Game Pass, and I tell her like it's 15, let's go eat it. It's $10 a month. I mean, like that's like what, 120 a year. Because back then, I would ask her. Honestly, I would ask her. I was like, "Can you buy me Zelda? Can you buy me Metro? Can you buy me Mario?" She's thinking like, "Okay, that's around like 400 euro for these games he wants to play." So for you, as a kid, like Game Pass is a steal for your parents. They're thinking it's great. Like you don't gotta bother me no more. Like it's 100% is there now. I'm an adult and I got money and I can make my own decisions. So it's a little bit different. I don't necessarily need Game Pass. I just buy kind of what I want. But you can't tell me that, Elder Scrolls is going to drop in March. And then, throw in, let's say, and then you got Halo coming out, and then you got Gears coming out, and then you got Avowed coming out. And if that's the plan, because I think Phil Spencer said it himself, like he wants to be dropping like 2 or 3 big games a year. Yeah. At that point, Game Pass just becomes so much more compelling. Because then I'm thinking to myself, okay, fine, well, okay, Avowed, $60, Halo, $60, Gears, $60, Pillars of Eternity 3, probably $60, Outer Worlds 2, $60. At that point in time, I'm thinking about spending maybe 300 or something. But if I just go on Game Pass, I just save so much more money. don't look at it necessarily as the Netflix of games per se. Like think of it like something like more akin to like trying to be like Disney. It's gonna get to the point where it doesn't make sense to not be subscribed. Because if you're gonna buy these Microsoft games already, these amazing, like these games are supposed to be amazing. If you're gonna buy these games already, you're gonna look at the value proposition right there. You're gonna say to yourself, why am I spending $350 on games when I can just get on Game Pass and save so much more money? Now, don't worry about the finance part of it. That's a Microsoft issue. They'll deal with that. But I think from your point of view, from a gamer point of view, it just makes perfect sense.
Okay. I got a quick question for you guys. Because I not gonna lie, we're like all in agreement of Game Pass is great. Do you guys have faith that Microsoft can deliver great games from their first party studios? Because Bethesda's kind of like Bethesda. Some people really rock with Bethesda, and then some people do not like them. And then we don't really know what's going on with Perfect Dark. Halo's not what it was, but it's still got its hype. We don't know what's going on with Gears. Like that's my only thing. It's like I love in theory, Game Pass can be great, but Microsoft's track record with everything that's been going on with their first party studios, they need to get it more handled like Sony does. So my question is again, do you guys think they can get it done? Do you think they can really focus and start at least nailing games that are the most anticipated games of the year? Because not gonna lie, most of the time Xbox doesn't. It's usually Sony and then a couple other multi-platform games. But game of the years, they're not there. Most of the time, most anticipated game, they're not there anymore. So we gotta look objectively.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
After you.
I agree. You know, I think that they do need to sort of up their game in terms of games. But I do have faith that is coming, you know, like that. I think that we're already seeing that. I mean, because you say that, like, you know, a lot when PlayStation games come out, like those are the game of the year contenders, and that's true. And I think that that's probably always going to be true for the most part. But specifically with this year, I think that we're going to see, you know, a lot of the games that are in the game of the year conversation. I think that a lot of them are going to be coming out of Microsoft Game Studios. You know, we're going to see
2 and Deathloop,
Psychonauts 2 and Deathloop, and I think Halo Infinite will be in there, and Forza will be in, you know, its sport categories and all that stuff. You know, when I was a kid, the games industry, as far as I was concerned, could have just been like the 3 Bs, right? Bethesda, BioWare, and Blizzard. And now Blizzard has gone and done all kinds of terrible things that I don't want to get into. BioWare is owned by EA. They still make some good games every now and then. But I just really want my Mass Effect and my Dragon Age back the way they were.
But hold up, though. I mean, before you finish that sentence, though, Microsoft is doing a hands-off approach. They're not really getting into it like that. So I do think, for example, I think Obsidian remains Obsidian. The only difference is they have finance. I think Ninja Theory remains Ninja Theory. They just have finance. So when I think about this question, the first thing that comes to mind is Obsidian made Pillars of Eternity, right? They made Outer Worlds, and those are great games. I think we can all agree on that. So if you give a company like that a better a financial, if you give them a bigger budget, like, what do you expect? I think we expect great things. I think I'm expecting great things from Ninja Theory. I'm expecting great things from all these developers. I think Microsoft, I mean, okay, fine. Let's just jump right through it. Bethesda, for example.
Right.
I don't think anybody is looking at Elder Scrolls and thinking, you know, Microsoft's going to mess this up. They're not going to mess that up. I don't think, if that gets messed up, it's on Bethesda. I don't think Microsoft is really doing anything on
but it still
on that
kind
front.
of hurts Microsoft.
No, but the problem Microsoft have, and there's 2 reasons people are suspicious about them. One reason, people look at Rare. That's the go-to example.
I was gonna say Benji because I just stayed silent till that moment popped up.
The reason people point at Rare, and the thing that gives me faith, is right now it's Steam that's obsessed in copying Nintendo. Microsoft got absolutely bogged, and Sony did the same too with the Move controllers, but Microsoft was obsessed with Kinect and they needed Kinect to make its money back. And so Rare were the fall guys who had to fill that plug. These new studios, Microsoft's got Game Pass. They're actually thinking gaming strategically right now, and the role these studios have is to produce quality content for Game Pass. So there's no reason for us to expect a repeat of the situation that happened when they brought Rare on board.
Right.
So that's what gives me faith right now that we haven't got a big distraction in the industry, which is usually provided by Nintendo. But fortunately, right now, it seems to be only Steam following that way. Microsoft can just focus on doing what they usually do good at. The one thing against that is the thing Microsoft is brilliant at, and the Xbox made its name from its online connectivity. And Halo was the big title, but it was all of the other games that weren't made by Microsoft. It was all third-party games that made the best out of what the Xbox could offer. So Again, apart from Halo, I can't really look at Microsoft's success and say Microsoft was behind it. They provided the platform and everyone else ran with it. Right. But so maybe hands-off approach is the best thing they can do.
Oh, absolutely. And, Keasante is saying it in the chat too. I mean, you have to keep in mind, of course, that it's a completely different Microsoft than it was back then. Like, it's a different CEO. It's Phil Spencer's in there instead of Don Matrick. Like, it's a completely new set of people, and it's a set of people who I have a lot more trust in than the people who were around in like 2013 and during all the Kinect stuff, right? And yeah, them saying that they're going to be, very hands off. That's definitely a good thing. I think that taking studios that are already talented and have great vision and just providing them with the money to like increase the number of devs that they have, increase the scale and scope of all the games that they're making. Like, I think that there's very little chance of that creating, consistently bad games, right? Like, don't get me wrong, there will be bad games that come out of Microsoft Game Studios, just like there's bad games that come out of everywhere. To take it back to the Netflix analogy, there's some really great Netflix shows. You got like things like Squid Games and Queen's Gambit and Stranger Things that really take off, but there are dozens of other Netflix original shows that you don't hear about because they're not good, and that's going to be the case, like it always is. And they do still need to, like Friend was saying, they do still need to for sure, make sure to get those third-party deals and make sure that they're grasping onto like the new exciting ideas that are coming out of that category. And it looks like right now their way of doing that is just to buy the third party. But whatever works. So I think as long as they stay aggressive and stay on top of it, I 100% believe that Game Pass is going to continue to have, or is going to deliver in terms of exciting games.
Yeah, like I can't wait to see gameplay for Contraband.
Right.
I feel like they're building a relationship with Avalanche. They're gonna try doing something with them and the people who made Outriders, because the people who made Outriders, they want to stick to being independent, and they're gonna stick to making AA games. So I could definitely see a relationship with them because they already put Outriders on Game Pass. So maybe a relationship will form. Their next game could be put on Game Pass. Day one.
The project. What are your thoughts, man? Do you trust Microsoft?
Hell no.
Bold.
Okay, bold aside, let's just look at the games that are coming out from every developer, right? Only you Sony people can be this optimistic. Everyone else is releasing stuff that you can't even figure out. Even Nintendo has taken a dip in quality. Have you seen the Pokemon games that came out? Those are the games I'm concerned with. So how can you guys in front of me say, Microsoft,
But hold on, man. You gonna say that about Nintendo? Like, I mean, didn't that Metroid come out, Dread?
Yeah,
Wasn't
but
that supposed to
what
be
did
good?
they do to, what did they do to my Pokemon?
Sony's
So
the
some
only
games-
company that's telling us stuff that's more than 6 months away right now. Everyone, it might be COVID, it might just be the companies don't have a lot to announce. But the truth is, we don't know what's coming from Microsoft, and we don't know what's coming from Nintendo past the next 6 months. It's a big unknown.
Yes.
But that's just because you don't know isn't a reason to be pessimistic.
See, look, I can't be optimistic when you're like, okay, Nintendo, release the virtual console. They're like, okay, guys, let's just get you really angry today. Or like, okay, get us a Pokemon game on a console. They're like, okay, we released it before, but we're not going to do that. And then the company that Microsoft took was Bethesda, and Bethesda are known for releasing buggy games.
Right.
Like on
Yeah, but like
launch.
these are the guys that made
That's-
Fallout and
that-
Elder Scrolls 2, though. You know, like
But
the
Fallout
thing
is
about
also
Nintendo's, I'll say one thing about Nintendo though. Like, I think it's fair enough to like not trust them per se, but I do think we do believe that like when they drop a Mario or Zelda Metroid, it's gonna be good. But we can attack them for different things though. I might not like. I mean, okay, Bethesda buggy games, whatever. But are you telling me you're not excited for Elder Scrolls 6?
Have you played Skyrim?
I
Like,
played
you have
Skyrim,
to-
man. It's an
Okay,
amazing
Ty,
game,
Ty,
bro.
Ty.
Okay.
Ty, I'm not gonna lie, bro.
Hmm?
I don't like the Skyrim games. The Elder Scrolls.
No, but I think that's a
different.
different thing, though. If you don't like the
No.
games, I think that's fair enough. But like, we can't. I'm not gonna sit here. Like,
Those
listen,
are big, though. Objectively, yeah, I
Yeah,
completely
yeah.
agree with you. Those are objectively big games. That's a big game.
yeah, exactly. You know, and like, are you? I mean, I don't know. Have you played any Obsidian game before the project?
No, I haven't actually picked those games up. Like,
Have
for
you
my
played
friend, for my friend, the recent one.
have you played Senua?
She said it's really good. Which
Have
one?
you played Senua? Ninja Theory.
Hellblade.
Hellblade. Sorry.
Hellblade. No. I didn't touch that game.
I mean, like,
I
you know,
listened.
Good.
No, it's good, but there are a lot of other good games now
games.
too. But
Oh, of
they're
course.
like what? Huh?
those are really amazing games, and I think the reason why I think you can trust Microsoft more is the leadership is completely different. I think you know, it's completely different. It's not the same guys leading it, and mainly it's the fact that like they're doing a hands-off approach, and that's important to some people, and maybe not to others. For me, if they weren't even doing a hands-off approach, just because the leadership is so, what's what I'm looking for? So open, and the fact that like they talk to the community, I think it's very different. I don't think I don't feel any type of way that okay, Microsoft's gonna mess this up. I think anybody who thinks like that has just been extremely pessimistic.
Tay, do you want to just bring up Montello's last comment in the chat?
Well, yeah.
Whose comment?
You've what he's written there is Microsoft's strategy.
Yeah.
But right
Well,
now, Sony's telling us everything they're doing over the next however many months. Right now, Sony's, you know, we've got their grand plan, but Microsoft's not announced their big games. But we know we're waiting for them. If Microsoft can pull this off and it comes out on Game Pass, that's their strategy.
Mhm.
When these studios, if only 2 or 3 of them need to hit gold, they don't
Yeah.
need all of them to. They just need two big hitters set alongside Halo, and that's their gamble.
But friend, I think we actually know. I think we know a decent amount of games to look forward to from Xbox that at least have titles, right? Because you got Stalker, next year. Starfield. There's Redfall. Redfall's coming out next year. So that's like 3 games. That's not bad.
Right.
So PlayStation has Sifu, Horizon, and then God of War.
Right.
I think that's it. So I would say it's pretty. I think Microsoft's done a good job of telling us what we're getting 2021 and 2022.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, actually, you guys might not know this, but out of all of the 3 companies, Microsoft's my favorite one. I have to make sure I say that before.
Are you sure?
Yes. Like, if you're critical of something, that's the one you like.
Nah,
Like,
I'm joking with you, man.
Yeah,
But,
because like Sony and Nintendo, I get really angry when it comes to them. Microsoft, I actually like them the most. But because I like them, I can see where this is going. Like, I see a different side. So that's all.
I will say one thing though. Do we think we know everything? I don't think so. I think there's a few
Not
surprises.
Nah, not everything, but
No.
Yeah.
We don't know
But I do like I agree with both Fred and Ken. Like I think that we don't know everything. Like there's definitely going to be a lot more big announcements. I think coming over the next year or 2 years. You know, that we haven't heard about. But I think they have done a pretty good job of being like, hey, over the next couple of years, like there's gonna like. Hey man, the next Fallout is going to be here. The next, like we've talked about Elder Scrolls 6, we know that that's coming. Like Redfall is next year, Avowed. Like there is some big stuff coming that we already know is going to be, in the Microsoft ecosystem. And the fact that, they're being so aggressive with things like, not as much third-party deals. Usually that's more associated with Sony, but like with acquisitions and stuff, like we have no idea what Microsoft is going to look like 2 years from now, especially when you consider like Phil Spencer just had an interview like yesterday where they were like, hey, are you done buying studios? And he was like, absolutely not. I'm buying them all. like who knows what it's going to be like. And on the topic of the hands-on versus hands-off, I think that they're intentionally buying studios that they can be hands off with. Like that's one of the things that they talk about a lot in terms of which studios they're looking at. Is they're looking at studios that already have like a really good culture. They're looking at teams like Ninja Theory and Double Fine, where like these studios already make quality content. They just make it on a smaller scale. And if we can help them out and then just like literally just back up a money truck to these studios and then not do anything else, that will already put amazing games into our ecosystem. You know, if they were going out and they were buying studios that I had never heard of, you know, it was kind of like honestly what PlayStation is doing right now. They're buying a lot of smaller studios that I haven't really heard of, things like Firesprite or whatever. Those studios, I wouldn't necessarily mind having, you know, them having more of a hands-on approach to, because like clearly PlayStation knows how to make games and these studios don't necessarily. So if they can be like, this is how, then that's another great studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I think like Sony, how did they? Aren't they pretty? They're kind of hands-on, hands-off with their studios. I like how they do it because I don't know. It just seems more organized. They actually feel like a well-oiled machine. Sony, like I feel like you're right with the established studios, and that's why I have a question. Like, I'm worried about Perfect Dark because that's a new studio, and remember they said the quadruple A
S4,
the quadruple A games. So like, and then they just recently announced that Crystal Dynamics is going to be in collaboration, but I thought they were a studio. I thought it wasn't going to be. I don't know. I'm confused with the initiative. I really hope they could deliver because I'm very excited for Perfect Dark.
I think with the initiative, I think it's there's only like maybe 15 people working. I'm not too sure now, but I remember the number was quite small. So if you look at it this way, they were always going to partner up with another studio. I will look at who's in charge. I think I would
the guy
always
in charge of the initiative used to be in charge at Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah, he's the guy. I think his name is Daniel. Is it? I think he's working at Tomb Raider games.
I think it's Daniel Gallagher or something.
Yeah, and I think, and you know, like I'll give you an example. Like, you know, if Kojima comes over and he says, "Oh, I only got a team of 12 people and I want to work with Crystal Dynamics," I don't think we're asking the same questions really. But I think it's always a matter of who's in charge. So that's what I don't really care. I think that the name is really important, and if you know, like, if this individual has delivered top quality games before, then I think, okay, I understand why Microsoft trusts this individual. I understand why Sony trusts certain individuals with their games as well. I think that's ultimately what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's not like Microsoft doesn't know what they're doing. In recent times, like aside from Forza Horizon, because 3 and 4 were amazing, I'm waiting for 5. And Killer Instinct itself, which was made by a smaller team, but they were a really dedicated team, right? Microsoft ends up making really, really good games. Like, there is reason to believe that they would do it right, but there's also reason to believe that they won't do it properly. So that's a small issue. I don't really think they don't know how to handle development teams, besides Rare.
Yeah.
How much of, I mean, I mentioned Connect earlier, but ignoring that, how much can you just point at Peter Molyneux's door, though? That they had a culture, again, old Microsoft is not the same as new Microsoft, but old Microsoft had a habit of promising the world and delivering.
I do feel like a lot of that specifically does get laid at the feet of Peter Molyneux, because that dude had a history of being like, oh yeah, this game is gonna like come out of the TV and give you a hug, and then like put out Fable 1, and it's like, I mean, this is good, but it's not what you said. Like, you know what I mean?
The modern Microsoft is actually just kind of more sensible. We have Game Pass and xCloud. That's mostly what they're saying, and we bought Bethesda. I think you can even now see what they're doing. You can go to Game Pass, and here's their offering. This is what it's going to be. It can get better, but you can already see where they're going.
Yeah, I just want to have a quick correction there. The initiative got 70 employees, and the goal is to start something and they let others finish it off. And I think, you know, it's not a strategy I've heard of too much, but there you go.
Yeah,
it definitely work.
I was watching David Jaffe, that obviously the God of War creator, and he was saying, yeah, that's probably what they're doing. It was that the top, because these are veterans at the initiative. They're probably going to come up with the design documents, all of that, and then prototype, and then they're going to send it off to Crystal Dynamics to actually build the game and stuff. So I hope it works. I hope it works. I hope it.
Yeah. I could see that being the thing at first, at least, because spinning. I think the problem is that this studio got started and they were like, we're gonna make quadruple A games. It's gonna be amazing. We're gonna have the biggest guys in the world. And then a year later, people were like, okay, but where's the game? Where's the game? And it's like, dude, we're still building the building. Like, we don't have a team. Yeah. And so everyone's like, hey man, we gotta have a game from you. And so they're probably going like, okay, well, we don't have the infrastructure in this studio right now to be making all these games. So we're going to have to tap talent in other places. Like, Daryl Gallagher, he works over Crystal Dynamics. He knows all the guys there. He trusts them. He understands how they work. We can sort of offload some of the heavy lifting and, some of the work onto Crystal D, which is not unusual in the games industry. I mean, if you look at basically any AAA game, some amount of it, like the multiplayer or the lighting or something, has been done by a multitude of different studios. Like, it happens all the time. And I do think that this is more than that, because we're already hearing rumors that like this is almost a test to see if Xbox wants to acquire Crystal Dynamics, which sounds crazy, and I don't even know if I believe it. But it's like, so clearly they're doing more than just like adding lighting or whatever.
Bro, it feels like there's a rumor about Xbox buying every studio. Like, I heard a rumor they were gonna buy CD Projekt Red, and I'm like, what the dude? It's crazy.
Yeah, let me just put this up real quick, because this is something that I have seen a lot from Ken Asante. He says, and for the record, they didn't call themselves a quadruple A studio. That was just found in a job posting. I removed quickly, but it got out.
Hold on.
Oh, is that true? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's. I think really? That is true. It wasn't them. It was just an advertising kind of thing.
It was them, but it wasn't a marketing term. Right. It wasn't meant to get out.
Yeah. It was.
That makes sense. Yeah, because that seems like that's a Babe Ruth, like calling your shot, pointing at the stands thing. Like, I don't know if I would have led with that foot.
I don't even know. Like, what does that even mean? Like, how is that just like, okay, well, we're gonna make a game that costs $1 billion to make? I don't get it, to be honest.
I don't know why Microsoft didn't really retract that either.
But is it Microsoft? Or is it them? Is it the developer?
I don't know.
Either way,
both. Like, they should have won. Like, no, that was just the job. That was for the job.
But listen, but Something did say it was removed quickly, so I think it was just just a mistake or whatever.
I mean, I think we can expect Perfect Dark to be, a bigger game. I don't know necessarily that it's going to be like, oh, this is the God of War killer or anything. Like, I just don't see that happening. It's that thing where I think it's going to come down to the point where, both PlayStation and Xbox are going to be making really good games. Xbox is going to be making a lot more games just because of the number of people that they have working for them. And then, every now and then, 2-3 times a year, PlayStation is going to put out God of War, Horizon, Spider-Man, whatever. And it's going to be like, all right, these are the ones that are going to be talked about for Game of the Year. You know what I mean? And I think I think that everyone, I think everyone involved on the business side of things is probably fine with that. Like, PlayStation is fine being the Criterion Collection, and Microsoft is fine making bazillions of dollars on all the other game sales. You know what I mean?
I know. I'm fine with it. Fine.
Do you know what I do think, though? I think when we go back to this question of do we trust Microsoft, I think their response is basically, okay, forget about the studio names or whatever. Yeah, you don't need to buy these games for $60 or $70. Just get it on Game Pass. Just give it a try one on Game Pass. And if you don't have a console, well, there's something called xCloud. So if you're ever hesitant about Microsoft, like I'll give you an example. I actually don't have an Xbox yet. What I do have, though, is a mobile phone. I got back onto Game Pass just to play Scarlet Nexus. And I think that's where they see it there. Like, if you're somebody who doesn't trust them and you're a bit iffy, or whatever it may be, they've lowered the barrier to entry so much that you just have to give it a try. Like Elder Scrolls 6 could be buggy as hell, but the barrier to entry is so low that you might as well give it a shot.
It's low risk, high reward. You know what I mean? Like, you have so little to lose by just getting into Game Pass for a month if there's a particular game that you're interested in, and then
sorry, go ahead, man, real quick.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I mean, if you find,
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
We're going fine.
Oh, done.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Okay, let's go.
I was gonna say, yeah. Even if you give Elder Scrolls a try and you don't like it, well, there's so many other games on the system that like, for that whole 1 month, you could keep going. You could go play something else.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for coming in, man. I really appreciate that.
There's actually one really exciting thing that this potentially brings to the table, though. So these big studios working on these big games for Microsoft to launch on Game Pass. We need a few Halos, we need a few big titles that bring people to Game Pass, but they don't need to stand on their own. The barrier to entry is zero. If you have Game Pass, the game's available, and you might as well check it out. And if there's enough people hyping about it, I just hang on. The thing that you can potentially get from this is Microsoft doesn't need to get in there with the marketing department to pick over every aspect of the game. They need the game to be solid, but they don't need it to have been torn apart. A movie comes out, the publishers, the movie studio goes in there and they get in the details and they mess around with the director and they look over every aspect of it. And there's usually that tension from the creative team saying, we don't like this oversight. But with Game Pass, Microsoft doesn't need to do that. They don't need the product to go on the store shelves and appeal to everyone at $60. They need everything to appeal to someone, and it will.
All right.
Great point, man.
The thing I was going to ask, right, is when you guys constantly talk about Sony IPs, right, can you tell me about all the must-have Sony IPs that will make me run towards buying the console? It's a really silly question, but I just want to know, aside from God of War and Spider-Man, what else are there?
Horizon.
Oh, but that's on PC now. Yeah. Ghost of Tsushima, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean exclusive?
Exclusive that's supposed to go and make you run after the console, yeah.
Well, I mean, we're gonna
I
get
would still count God
Ragnarok.
of War, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like Ragnarok is not out on PC yet. So
so God of War. No, but it's just God of War is one, and Spider-Man is another one, and then Ghost of Tsushima is another one.
Yeah, and Last of Us.
And that one's still like okay, but aside from like I have I don't know, but like the three that you mentioned, right? Because I did want to say that Sony has like a ridiculous advantage.
Bloodborne as well.
That needs to go to PC. I need that.
Yeah, that needs to come to PC. There's no excuse. That's just like sad. But the thing is that what I was looking at on Sony's side, right, is that they have Spider-Man, and that's like everything on its own. Like you gotta understand, I grew up with Spider-Man too, right? That guy's too important. So the fact Sony even has that, like, how do I put it up? They have an unfair advantage, just like Nintendo has Pokemon. Like, what kind of IP is Microsoft even supposed to bring out that can ever compete with Spider-Man?
Well, I think that it's.
They don't. My bad.
Yeah.
Oh no! Sorry, Jim Ryan's back. It's. I don't think it's. I don't think it's ever going to be like necessarily a 1-to-1. You know what I mean? Like, PlayStation games, love them or hate them, they kind of have a pretty standard template. They'll change it a lot, between, but it's always that, third person action, that sort of thing, right? Like those are the ones that make the money, and they're those big cinematic movie type games, and they're great, right? So I don't think necessarily that Xbox is ever going to have, or ever really necessarily needs to have, something that looks exactly like that and plays exactly like that. But in terms of the IP that they have, I think that they are going around. I mean, they bought a ton of it just by buying Bethesda with like, Doom and Wolfenstein and Fallout and whatever. But, Halo and Gears, like those are just as big. I think the thing that we're forgetting about is the fact that a lot of these really big IPs that PlayStation has been playing with over the last generation are ones that are new to the PS4 generation. So Xbox, a lot of those studios could very easily create a brand new IP and have that become something, huge that people really love.
I'd agree with that. So the problem wasn't that Microsoft didn't have them. It's got Fable, it's got Forza, but have those properties been properly managed over the last generation?
Forza, maybe. Fable, no.
Forza, absolutely. Forza has been done pretty well. But like the main problem is like when you're trying to talk about IPs like this, right? I couldn't, over the top of my head, figure out anything that could compete with what Sony's making or what Nintendo's making.
Well, I think Daniel really made a good point when he said like these are new. We gotta. Okay, you mentioned Spider-Man, yeah, so let's tackle that first. Spider-Man is a huge IP, but Sony doesn't really. They don't own it in that sense, but like I know that's a very different topic. I think Elder Scrolls can compete from a gaming perspective. I think Microsoft has games that can compete in that sense. I don't think they can compete with the fact that like Spider-Man is such a big name. It's such a huge IP. So in that sense, I think they need to go a bit beyond that, and they need to maybe go get a Daredevil. They need to go get a Wolverine. Obviously, Sony has that, but they need to go get something else. But I think that's different. But I think when we talk about Last of Us and God of War, I do think Microsoft is capable of reaching that height. And
Yeah,
very
it's
much
like
so.
Spider-Man is the scary one because to have IPs like that, people are like, oh, like Spider-Man is on the PlayStation. Like, I don't think Microsoft can find something like that.
Well,
Like,
I mean,
until
they have
well,
Minecraft, which is bigger than Spider-Man.
mean,
okay, no one, I
technically,
lose. You win. Yeah, there you go. You go. That's way bigger. That's bigger
No
than
one
anything.
messing with Minecraft,
Yeah,
to
no
be
one messing
honest.
with that one.
That's
Like,
fair.
you got me.
The-
That's more
the-
iconic than Spider-Man.
The sort of lofty dream that I have for it is that because we know that PlayStation is sort of doubling down on Marvel, right? Like they have Spider-Man, they're killing it with that, and Insomniac is making Wolverine, and I'm sure they'll kill it with that too. And there's all these rumors of Microsoft like buying up the WB studios, and it's like, okay, what if we can just combine these two like big dumb console war arguments, and we can get the console war argument and combine it with the DC versus Marvel argument, and just like get bloodbaths in the streets.
That would be
Like,
amazing.
let's go. Like imagine just like Obsidian making some big RPG based around like Batman, or in the Initiative doing a Superman game, or Double Fine finding some like what's the DC equivalent of Howard the Duck? Like just grab something fun and just mess with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing is, right, is that when we're looking at gaming audiences, right, I still have usually a problem, like, what would sell a console for a person? Like, whenever you guys say Mario and Zelda, and I'm like, where's the Pokemon in it, right? Every single time I'll have the same response, because for me, one thing was here. So when I'm looking at just the audience in my area, Spider-Man is so strong that I haven't even found an Xbox controller yet. So some IPs are just too popular. Like, I'm serious, like, Spider-Man is too good. So, like, we can't just look at like we would like this or we would like that. What are different kind of demographics? So like on the sports end, they're safe. But what about these niche hero requirements that usually people want? Does Microsoft have anything for that? I don't know. But then when it comes to like Elder Scrolls and something they're making like Elder Scrolls, I think those could go work, but that would be a separate kind of audience. It wouldn't sell like Spider-Man though. It would be its own separate audience. I don't know how
I think
Microsoft
Spider-Man,
Spider-Man
is too big.
Yes,
yeah,
like,
But let's keep in mind as well. I think so God of War has 19 point something million sales. Spider-Man has over 20. I don't know if that's 21 or 22. So God of War isn't too far behind. And if we're saying that Microsoft could get a game that could reach God of War heights, then they're close enough to Spider-Man. If you get what I'm trying to say, it's not too much of a reach to. I don't think Spider-Man doesn't win the generation per se. I think here's what Microsoft could do. Right, they have way more games being made at this moment. Yeah. So if they could bring out a lot of B+ games, a couple of A+ games, I think they're in a winning position already. If you understand that, because it's now quality and quantity like in the same boat.
See,
I think it all depends. Then I think it all depends what type of gamer you are, because there's still millions of gamers that don't really care about Sony's AAA games. Like it all depends. Like it seems like Xbox is focusing on a lot of RPG games. There's millions of people that love RPGs, and there's millions of people that don't. So I feel like obviously if you own both, if you have Game Pass, whatever, and you own a PlayStation, you're winning. You're gonna get a lot you're getting everything. You're getting the best of both worlds. So it all depends on what you like, honestly, when it comes down to it.
Right. And I think, I'm sure that all of us are sort of in the kind of privileged position of being like, we're at some point, whether we do now or are planning on, like, we are probably going to own all of the systems for this current generation, right? Like, we're all going to have a PS5 and a Series X and all that stuff, right? So it's like, I don't want them to all do the same thing. Like, I don't necessarily want Microsoft to go out and start doing the thing that PlayStation is doing, because then it's almost like, well, then why do I need both? You know what I mean? So I kind of like that all three of them are doing very different things, because it lets me be like, oh, what am I in the mood for today? Do I want to like have a 20-hour like real nice God of War experience, or do I want to go and play, some Obsidian RPG, or hop on Game Pass and play Back 4 Blood with my friends, or do I want to go play Pokemon,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because like the thing is right now I'm noticing, right, the companies are showing what they're giving you. So Sony is more going towards these really, really expensive games that you can't find anywhere else. Like, I mean, they have Spider-Man. That's done. Even Disney wants Spider-Man. It's too expensive. Then when it comes to Nintendo, they have all your childhood with them. there's nothing you can do. If you try emulating, they'll sue you. So like they have your childhood in a jail. You have to go there. That's the only way you can get back to your childhood. Then Microsoft is offering just value, pure value. Like even on PC, like honestly, they don't have to put their stuff on Steam, but they know their store is bad, so they put it there. Even allowing us to do that, we're actually taking more care of. Like it's the pro-consumer way to go. Even their controllers are pro-consumer because they have replaceable batteries. They don't die as easily. These things die faster. So the thing is, the reason why I like Microsoft is currently they are the most pro-consumer company out there in comparison to all the rest of them.
Yeah, 100%.
In the past, they were not.
That's true.
In the past, they were not.
But Sony does a lot of nice things though, because they're one of the companies that give you a full experience and doesn't make you buy anything after. I really appreciate that from Sony.
Do you mean like in relation to first party adventure games or?
Yeah, like the live service, they don't try and bleed you dry.
Yes.
Like they literally you buy their game and that's it. That's the only thing
There's
they
like
want you to buy.
sometimes DLC, but that's about it. And even then, like the only one I could think of off the top of my head is like the Spider-Man DLC, and that Spider-Man DLC was not that great anyway.
But do you not think like that's just their brand now though? Because if Sony was to do that, I mean that's gonna get a lot of pushback.
No,
Yes.
it's gonna depend because we'll see because they are developing live service games.
Yeah, but I think you don't think that's gonna be separate because I can't imagine playing The Last of Us 3 with components.
Nah. I don't think they'll ever add microtransactions.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to create these new specific games just to tackle that market. Yeah. It's funny because we were talking about IPs and I was thinking about Animal Crossing. Like, I think the reason why I'm not too concerned about Microsoft, like, being competing in terms of an IP sense is because I think this generation, Animal Crossing surprised me. I think Smash Bros, it was always a dope game, but like now it's like, well, Smash Bros Switch is the best selling fighting game ever. I feel like, Ghost of Tsushima has done really well this generation as well. So I do think you can bring out games in this generation, and next generation they might just be the top one. So I don't think Microsoft should be. I don't think they should be worried at all. I think I'm really excited for Obsidian. I think that's the best studio right now, and I think there's gonna be a lot of good things coming from them. And I do like Outer Worlds 2. I think so 4.4 to 5 million. And everyone really speaks highly of that game.
Is Outer Worlds 2 going to be exclusive?
Sorry, Outer Worlds 1.
Worlds 2,
100%.
Yeah, it will be
exclusive. All right.
I can't, I was talking to one of my friends and he's like, "Oh, Elder Scrolls is going to be on PlayStation." I was like, "No, God, no."
I'm sorry.
It's just not going to happen. I think Microsoft is going down that exclusive route, and it just makes sense because at this point in time, if you drop any of your games like Elder Scrolls on a PlayStation console or whatever, it doesn't make sense, and it just seems it seems iffy because this is the same company that was reaching out to Bethesda to get Starfield as an exclusive. This is the same company that has Knights of the Old Republic as a timed exclusive. So this is the same company that has the conversation can't be it can't be Sony still has better exclusives. There needs to be a situation where on your ecosystem I can't get these games on another ecosystem. And I think that's when you're gonna have this situation where it just makes sense for people to join Game Pass. Like I said, I can't really imagine a PlayStation player per se, let's say, going on Game Pass just to play Elder Scrolls if it's on PlayStation. I think they buy it on PlayStation. I know I buy it on PlayStation if it comes out on PlayStation. So I think there's a real big shout out for making all your games exclusive, and I think that's where they're going to go.
Oh, absolutely.
But like the thing is, I know we're talking about exclusive, but look at what kind of exclusives they're making too. Like every console has unique exclusives that are really not competing with one another. They're just completely different things. Which route are you going to take instead? So the conversation, instead of being about like, okay, is this going to beat this or is it going to beat that? It's like, okay, which one are you going to pick? What do you feel is matching your preference more? Like that's the conversation, because this is why I started thinking about does anyone have Spider-Man? It's because it seems like the experience is too different. Because of the experiences being too different now, it's like, you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, exactly. Because all of them are different. Like look at them as completely three different products. Like they're actually completely three different products. It's not like, oh yeah, we're getting Call of Duty expansion packs before you or something like that. They're not crippling the same game. They're all selling you different games. Which in the PlayStation 3 generation and Xbox generation, they were selling you the same game, but they were crippling each game. You see what I mean? Like, there's a difference now. So it's more about which product do you choose now? Which philosophy do you agree with? Instead of like, okay, yeah, 1 for 1.
I was gonna say for Microsoft, I think they're gonna be the king of Western RPGs. Like, if you like RPG games, Western RPG games, it's game over. Like that's where you gotta go. There's nowhere else. I can't think of any PlayStation game that has a Western RPG. If you like story-driven, third-person, over-the-shoulder kind of games, then you go to Sony PlayStation. That just makes sense. I don't know if Microsoft is gonna focus on that yet. But I think, hey, listen, they got the RPG part locked down, and that's where I'm gonna be 100%.
And I think I just think Xbox is gonna do the best it can to do all to try and cover all of its bases. Obviously, some areas are gonna be weaker, but there's still gonna at least there's gonna be pockets of it. I think there's definitely gonna be a story game. They're gonna have to have those people to settle down, and then there's going to be the RPGs, and then you're going to have the smaller indies. You're going to have your AA games. I think they're just going to find a way to kind of have a nice medium. They're going to try doing something with that.
Yeah.
That's the joys of Game Pass, man. That's the joys of it. Man, we've been talking for a while now. I think are we done? Because honestly, we could do this all day, but
I'm very cautious of time. Like, I'll try bringing notes next time to make sure I only say a very certain extent of stuff and keep track of that timer so it doesn't exceed 1 hour.
Nah, man, listen, just speak your mind. That's all that matters. You made some good points, so it's all good. Anything else? I was gonna bring up Splinter Cell and Cyberpunk, but maybe we do that a different day. I don't know.
Yeah, because with Splinter Cell, it's really obvious, and nothing's gonna come out of it. Done. Like, that's.
Oh, is that Jim Ryan again, bro?
It is. He's saying, don't talk about Splinter Cell. I don't have that. That's not. I don't own that. Don't talk about it.
You know what I mean?
If it becomes a battle royale game, right? It would be amazing.
K. Asante, he was on Double Barrel Gaming, and he actually mentioned was the K. Asante? I think it was K. Asante, and he mentioned how that there's a chance that he thinks potentially that Microsoft might have funded the whole Splinter Cell with Ubisoft, because Ubisoft were not interested in making a Splinter Cell game, and similar to the same way that Knights of the Old Republic has been funded by Sony, etc. I don't know if I really go that. I don't know if I believe that per se, but it is definitely possible. I mean, like, you can imagine a Splinter Cell game coming on Game Pass day one. But go ahead, man.
Sorry, you think so? I don't think Ubisoft has yet to really dabble with Game Pass. Has any of their games been on Game Pass?
They've had games on there. They haven't had any that launched on there.
They have their own subscription too.
Yeah, I think it's more likely.
Yeah, they have their own. I don't. And remember, Ubisoft has been doing a lot of suspect things. And
that's true too.
I remember reading the report. They were saying this move was to win back fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't.
Yeah, this feels more like when EA did. They finally did the single-player Star Wars game. What was it called a few years ago?
Fallen Order.
Yeah, and it felt like they only did that to prove the people who said they couldn't do it wrong.
They could.
So Ubisoft, this might be Ubisoft doing okay, we need to make some face back. You're right.
Yeah. Well, my big question about it is, so the Splinter, was that officially announced by Ubisoft, or is that like a leak?
No, it's just a report.
Okay, so then maybe, because if it had been firstly announced, they were like, hey, we're working on Splinter Cell or whatever, and it had been funded by Xbox, then they would have been like, and it's exclusive, and it's launching on Game Pass, whenever it comes out. That would have absolutely been some part of the conversation from day one. If it's leaked, then who knows, maybe. But yeah, I think that it is also just more likely that they're like, we got some hot water right here, and Splinter Cell might cool that down.
All their games, I always give credit to Ubisoft, because they're the guys who did For Honor. They're the guys who did Siege, and I think to bring out those two games, they're so different from what was being out back then. Siege could have easily been a crazy shooter, Call of Duty kind of game, but it was very tactical. It was good. I still play that game now and then. It's a really dope game. For Honor is one of my favorite fighting games as well. Now, granted, I feel like those games shouldn't have been 60. It should have been way cheaper than whatever they released it at. But I give them credit for that. I will say, though, also Assassin's Creed Origins, dope game. And I know a lot of Assassin's Creed fans that might not like that statement too much, but that's an amazing game to me.
Origins?
Yeah, Origins, with Bayek in Egypt. That was a dope game. I will say though, the recent releases, apart from Far Cry, I actually like the way Far Cry looks. But the other recent releases, all this kind of microtransaction battle royale game, like I don't understand this company. Like they've kind of they've changed big time.
I think they even said that they're like focusing on live service style games.
That and WB Games said they were gonna start focusing on that type
which
of
has
stuff.
me worried about like Gotham Knights and the Suicide Squad.
I'm very worried about those two games because it's very weird that they have two live subscription games coming out the same year,
and they're both DC properties. And it's like, also the fact that we're like 2 years into the announcement of them, and they have shown them off both years, but have intentionally not shown us what that game actually plays like or looks like, is like, I'm worried.
I was so tight when they didn't show Suicide Squad gameplay. I was so tight, but anyways, Ubisoft is I don't know what they're doing. They're really I don't know if they're ready to really take this plan of attack with live subscription games, because they're not the best company to do it. They're not.
They failed them big time. I think everyone's trying to replicate Grand Theft Auto, and I understand that game brings in crazy money. Like it makes sense that you would actually tell your if you're a publisher, you tell your developers, where's our version of Grand Theft Auto? Like we need to be making those, we need to bring those games in, that kind of money in on a yearly basis. Ubisoft though, they just haven't hit it, and I kind of hope they don't. Because I don't want to be seeing these kind of games from them, because they can bring out quality games. They just need to kind of get back on track. And can you imagine a Splinter Cell game with freaking microtransactions and all this crap?
Oh my god!
I don't want to see it, man. I don't want to see
it. You said something about Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk. Do you want to? Are we done here? Or do you guys want to like do that? Like I don't know.
There's nothing much to say about Ubisoft, sadly. Like what they're releasing, like even what they're doing with Assassin's Creed, they're running after Fortnite and GTA money. There's nothing much to say about it. Besides, if they're going the MTX route, hope to God it fails. That's about it. That's all you can say.
Yeah,
trying to follow us.
I think we can talk about the Cyberpunk thing pretty fast too.
Yes, it's really short and really simple.
I don't know, man. Cam might have a lot to say on that stuff.
I mean, let's see.
Man, I don't know. I'm pretty. Dude, I was. Oh my god! Man.
You see, I told you.
Let's go.
Never mind, bro. We'll be here for like another hour.
All right, let's do a snippet of Cyberpunk then. What was the news on that again? It's been delayed until 2022. Yeah,
the next gen versions.
Yeah, they said. I'm pretty sure they said Cyberpunk's next gen version is still going to come out before The Witcher enhanced version. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But I'm just very worried about that game in 2022 because of so many other games coming out in 2022. Because I don't see, unless you're a fan, like why would you go back to that game? Because of what happened. Like because of what happened, why would you go back if you're not a fan? So that's the only thing I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a hot take. I think that game. I actually thought the game was good. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it wasn't that bad. But I played it on Stadia, so I didn't get any of the console crap. I think the game needs to. I think what CD Projekt Red needs to do is that game kind of needs to just die. And I say that because I feel like they need to kind of do what BioWare did with Andromeda. You just kind of forget about it, and I don't mean like diss the fans or whatever. You do what you got to do for them. But
isn't that probably why they're holding a Witcher 3 re-release to come out just after it? So they'll get their money out of some Cyberpunk, and then it'll be straight back to, oh yeah, but we're the guys who made The Witcher. Don't worry about that. We've got The Witcher.
Yeah, and I think for me, go ahead.
My bad. I don't think they're gonna abandon Cyberpunk though. They're not gonna abandon Cyberpunk. They have to get the expansions out. They have to. There's no doubt in my mind they're not gonna get the expansions out. And they're going to release a multiplayer, and I think that's gonna be the last thing they do. Because those are the things they promised.
Good point with the multiplayer. What I'll say about that is that I feel like okay, you do the expansions, you do whatever you gotta do, but I think the game stops there. I think you don't talk about the game for a very long time. You wait until The Witcher 4 comes out, and you make sure that game is a banger. And when that game is a banger, then you come back with Cyberpunk 24,000, whatever the hell you want to call it. And I think when you come with that, you make sure that game comes correct. And when you do that, it's all good. Because if we can look at, let's say, Mass Effect as an example, right? Andromeda messed up big time. And EA just said, you know what, screw everything. No, we ain't messing with this no more. But then you bring out Legendary Edition. You kind of remind the fans and the people, like, you know what, you guys love this franchise. So in this case, I think, you bring out The Witcher Legendary Edition or whatever it may be. But you make sure people have kind of forgotten about Cyberpunk, right? And when you show the new Cyberpunk, you add the multiplayer to the new game. Don't bring it to the old game, because it's already dead. Cyberpunk is already kind of finished in this sense. Just forget about it. Add the new multiplayer to the new game. The reviews come out for the new game, which is maybe in 6 years, 8 years, 10 years time, whatever it is. And if that's a hit, then I think you get everybody back talking about the game and you get everyone buying the game. But you kind of have to forget about Cyberpunk 2077. I think it stops there.
I do wonder what the excitement is, because the thing is, releasing them on the new Xbox and new PS5, okay, you'll get it running when it didn't run on the PS4 first time round. But it's not going to look better than the people on the high-end PCs. Like, had it been a console-only game, a PS5 re-release, brilliant, fantastic, I'm excited. But the people who like Cyberpunk first time around were the PC players, and they've already got their money's worth out of it.
Actually, the pro people too. If you had an Xbox One X, a PlayStation 4 Pro, I had a PlayStation 4 Pro. It was fine, so I was able to enjoy my playthrough. But yeah, as you were saying.
No, you're right. The people with the Pro, it's a much more incremental, a smaller upgrade. It's a smaller step.
Yeah, like I think what they should have done was they should have, to help out the game, especially with the first expansion, they should honestly kind of have a soft re-release with the next gen. And I hope the next gen adds more like NPCs, but I don't think it will. I really don't think it will, because I don't have the game on PC. Does anybody have the game on PC?
I was actually smart about it.
You bought? So what do the streets look like?
I don't know. I said I was smart about it, and I didn't buy it.
Oh, you didn't buy it?
But I did see what the streets look like because my friend has it. So don't worry about that one. Yeah.
So there's streets on. All right. So like, I would hope the next gen could at least have some NPCs, make it look a little bit beefier. Like, but I don't think so, because we'll see.
Honestly, like,
so go ahead, man.
The thing is, right? They also own GOG, right? CD Projekt. They have their own store on PC as well. Yeah. The problem right now is they not only got one flunk, which was Cyberpunk. They've also been doing some really, like, they had Hitman the other day that was supposed to not have DRM on the store, but it had DRM, so they got it flagged for that. I think they need their reputation back right now, so they're kind of working on that because they run a store, and that makes them a lot of money. And the other problem is that I actually just skipped. They need their reputation back. I was gonna say something else, but I don't even care.
No, I think you're right with the reputation thing. Yeah. But I feel like, you can keep fixing Cyberpunk, and I think you fix it to an extent. Like, I'm just gonna rehash this and point again, but you fix it to an extent, and then you just bounce out, and then you just, because the way you get your reputation back isn't through Cyberpunk. Like, that game, you already burned bridges with a lot of people. Like, you're getting sued from a lot of people. Yeah. You fix it.
That's not the only thing that's going on. It's actually because they're taking delays now. Now they're showing that they're listening to the developers, and they're no longer doing crunch, and they're taking their time now, which was also the allegations they got. So
I don't know if gamers have seen that as like, oh no, they're not crunching. I just think they think they're inefficient, because you can't say, okay, well, it's going to come out this day and then it gets delayed again. I think they've shown that, like, they're very, very inefficient at doing certain things. Like, they're not the same CD Projekt Red that the guys who did Witcher 3. But to finish the point I was trying to make is that you're not getting anything with Cyberpunk. You need to bring out Witcher Legendary Edition. Blow everyone's minds away, because that's what it is. Like, if you're telling me I'm going to play Witcher 1, 2, 3 with upgraded graphics and, everything remastered, and maybe a bit of a remake as well, that's amazing. I'm playing that. And I think everyone's talking about CD Projekt Red again if that happens. And then when that happens, maybe the Witcher 4 drops. And then when that happens, you then drop Cyberpunk, whatever you want to call it, and you drop it with the multiplayer. You don't drop the multiplayer with it now. It's a disaster. It ain't gonna work.
I agree. I think that if they want to maintain, like, if they want to be able to come back to the Cyberpunk IP and continue to put games out in it, though, I feel like they do need to fix it up to some extent. Like, they have to get it to the point, not necessarily of like a what was that game with the No Man's Sky. They don't have to like come back to that degree, but they have to bring it back to the point where whenever they announce the next Cyberpunk game, because what's going to happen is immediately every single person in the press is going to be like, "Oh, another Cyberpunk! Hey, that first one, real bad, right?" And so you have to bring it back to the point where those guys in the press will then also be able to say, "Oh, but they did fix it." You know what I mean? Because you got to be able to get that public appeal back on it.
You go.
Okay, I was just no discussion, just a vote. Do you think there would be a Cyberpunk sequel? Because I don't think there will be. I think it's pastures new, either The Witcher or something brand new.
Yeah,
new.
I haven't played the first one, so I don't even know if I
Witcher. I think they'll go back to Witcher, and then I think because how long games take to develop, and a bunch of stuff can happen. I can't really tell what their next game would be because it's such a long time. So I don't really know if they would go back to Cyberpunk. But
I think, sorry about that. My stand is acting really weird. I think they do go back to it. I think it makes sense to go back to it in the near future. I think it's an IP that's good. I think it has fans and it's sold well enough.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a really good game. Sorry, Daniel, go ahead.
No, sorry. I haven't played it yet, so I don't know necessarily whether or not I would love it or hate it or what. But the Witcher series has been something that I've enjoyed off and on for a very long time, and I think that the reason why, if they do go back to it, I think that the idea when Cyberpunk came out originally that everyone was bringing up is this going to be like the thing that Bethesda has, where it's like, Fallout and Elder Scrolls, we have our sci-fi one and we've got our fantasy one. Is this going to be, CD Projekt Red's equivalency to that? And unfortunately, they just kind of dropped the ball. But I think that, I think CDPR wants to be able to have games of more than one IP coming out of them. Because, like, if you only make the same thing over and over again, then people are going to get bored of it.
I had to ask. Ty talked about remastering the games, right? Did any one of you play Witcher 1?
No, but that only because it's very difficult to get hold of unless you're prepared to pay it on PC. Witcher 1 and 2 are pretty limited in terms of their availability outside of.
Aside from availability, what is a doozy? Like, it's not The Witcher. It is not The Witcher. You'd think you're playing some other game.
Yeah.
When I was playing 2, because I was playing that back on 360, and that game had some problems. Like, that game had some real jank on it.
Yeah,
it was.
It's weird. Like, Witcher 3 was their beginning.
Almost,
yes.
Basically, it was their beginning.
I'm gonna push back on that. Witcher 2, I think that was where everything started off. But Witcher 3, you're right, from a commercial point of view.
And fans, and for most of obviously you're gonna have the day ones, but most of their fans came from Witcher 3.
Yes, because 2 was okay. Because I bought 3 and then I bought 1 and 2, and I was like, I'll just work my way up, right? 1 was something else. I don't know where I was living when I was playing that one. 2 was okay. I was like, how is the game going to come out of this? And 3 looks like it's made by a different studio. So it's not like so out of the ordinary that what CD Projekt Red would make, like fix the game or bring something new or whatever. Like, it's not like they wouldn't do it, because after 1 and 2, 3 came. So like it's not like they don't have experience. And plus, they're not that bad of a developer. They just need to get their reputation back.
I think this is what would happen. This is what I would like to happen. I think I have trust in them with the expansions. I have a lot of trust in them. I think they know how important the expansions are going to be, because that's what's going to save the game. I think that's what's going to leave at least a better taste in people's mouths when they stop supporting Cyberpunk. Because
Ken, I got a question for you. You got trust in them, right? Can you trust the developer? And I know a few of them have left, but the main guys who oversaw the project is still there, if I'm not mistaken. Do you trust them, knowing that the same people who decided to push this game out, knowing what it was, the same people who lied, said, "Oh, the consoles run well"? do you trust a company? Because if I'm an employee, because the employees came out, they were saying like, we told them this ain't gonna work, like this is a disaster, and they're just like, whatever. If I'm the employee and the manager who waved me off is still there, like, can you trust them, or do you think it's a case of, well, they've learned their lesson, the managers are all good now?
It's like, it's so hard. It's true. The reason why I'm gonna say I trust them is because they're actually they're actually doing what they're saying. They said the reason why they delayed this next gen version was because I think they didn't say it was ready, but they needed more polishing, because they took a survey through the other developers. It was something like that, but they're really taking their feedback, and I think they're trying to learn from it, and they're trying to crunch less, all that stuff. But again, like in that same report, the CEO was like, we got to get Cyberpunk. He's always saying we got to get Cyberpunk to where we want it. So that's why, again, I believe the expansions are going to really save that game, because I think they know what were the best parts of the game now, which I think are the side missions. The side missions are the best part of the game. They know what characters people like, what people want to see more. So I think that's where they're going to go, like, all right, let's give them the experience they really wanted. And then, Ty, like you said, they're going to come out with the Witcher remake, and then they're going to come out with Witcher 4. And then, now that you're saying it, you convinced me that they will probably go back to Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I think it's money left on the table if they don't. I think they definitely will, because I think it was pretty clear that they wanted. Yeah, no, it sold well. Like, I think it's pretty clear that they wanted a GTA Cyberpunk kind of game, and they just botched everything. And that's why I look at the managers and I say, like, well, if y'all are still there, I don't know how I trust you. I'm gonna put that to you, friend. Can you trust a developer that has the same management still in place that botched the game so bad?
Was it Wontellu put in the chat that was it the higher ups, or is it the developers themselves? The director of Cyberpunk was on the earlier Witcher game. He was an artist on the original Witcher, and I know we had the discussion about when CD Projekt Red hit their stride. I think it's 3 games in a row of continuous improvement, and then on this 4th game, when they actually tried to do something original, I don't know. I see why people like the concept of Cyberpunk, but I also, from the day it was announced, all I saw on the marketing was from the makers of The Witchers. And so that I keep coming back to this. You've not just tarnished Cyberpunk, you've actually tarnished The Witcher as well by doing it.
You actually have. No, you're right. Why do you think they're trying their best to bring their reputation back? Why are they trying so hard? Because they kind of botched everything. Along with their store, they've been doing controversial stuff there as well. They've been doing everything wrong suddenly, and they need to repair it all back.
It's not that I don't think they can, but I do think the onus is on them, and that's why, the delay makes sense, because the onus is on them to recover this. So I wish them all the best luck, but it's an uphill battle for them right now. Because it sold well, but it was also one of the most expensive video games ever made.
Yeah, and that's why it must have been a big. Still, like, because they lost out on a lot of sales. They still made up, but they still lost out on a lot of sales. It was a disaster. Like, it was just a disaster, that launch. So that they definitely, it wasn't a win for them financially. And that company's been on it could have been like, I think they didn't file for bankruptcy, but they were down bad a couple times. Like, they were it was bad.
Yeah. So. I mean, do you remember, it was like in the middle of when everyone was still actively shit talking Cyberpunk, it was like right in the mess, right? And they're like, Hey guys, we just wanted to pop in and let you know that we sold a lot. We made our money back. It was great. All right, bye. Y'all keep complaining. And I was like, bull.
Do you know what? Yeah, I thought that was the funniest thing ever, man. I swear.
Well, was Anthem 2019 or 2020? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I just remember seeing that announcement and them going, "All you're trying to prove is this isn't Anthem."
Because I feel like it's like everyone's like, because when you become a meme, that's just the worst thing. Like you can make a bad game, but when everyone's like comparing you to like all this stuff, it's horrible. And I feel like it was them saying, "Well, no, actually, you suck. We sold millions. Like, what are you talking about?"
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh man, I mean, perfect trolls for sure. But I mean, Daniel, go ahead. Like, tell us. Can you trust them, knowing that the same people, more or less same people, are still in charge?
It's hard to say for sure because, like, I do think that they can come back from this. For sure. Like they've made good games in the past, and I'm sure will make good games in the future. And I'm hoping that by the time that everything is said and done with Cyberpunk, that it is a good game and is widely received as one. Probably around the time that the next gen patch finally comes out, whenever that is. As of right now, I would say I don't really think so. Like if instead of, I don't know. I want to, I guess, is the bigger answer. Like, I want them to make good games again, and I want them to, prove that they can. But nah,
I feel you.
It's tough.
Trust is hard.
They're not getting. See, one of the things is with Cyberpunk, they had such a reputation that just because not Cyberpunk, like what you CD Projekt, that when you would see CD Projekt Red, you would stop doubting. CD Projekt Red was itself an evidence that this thing is going to be okay. They have targeted their reputation. That is never coming back.
Yeah.
So now what's going on is now that you've lost the one thing no company had, and you ruined that. Now you all you have to do is get back up. And even Microsoft could get back up. Like they went from the most consumer unfriendly to consumer friendly. But people will still call them snakes sometimes because they recall what they did. So people won't trust them as much. That reputation is permanently done. That is permanently done. Like they're never getting it back. And as far as coming back, if Microsoft will come back, many companies will come back. Nintendo came back after the Wii U. So coming back isn't the question. IP reviving that, like Metroid came after years. If that could come back, anything can come. So that isn't the problem. But their special reputation of the best, like their developer to trust is gone.
Yeah. I agree and disagree. I think what CD Projekt has managed to do is that, like, I look at these companies like, the Rockstars and all these guys, and they're looking at CD Projekt Red and probably thinking like, oh, like y'all think you're the best, like, okay, like wait till you gotta like make that big ass game, like that's what we specialize in. So I think it kind of gave you an appreciation for like GTA and Red Dead Redemption, because when you see how bad CD Projekt Red failed on that front and that open world aspect. You look at Red Dead and you're thinking like, but this game came out years ago. Like, how is it that like they did this?
They were able to port it properly on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4.
Exactly. Like, if you ask me like the best developers, I would tell you like, yo, the guys are Rockstar. Like, because like if I held CD Projekt Red to that standard and they could even like reach that, I have a better appreciation for what Rockstar did. What I will disagree with you on a little bit is, can they get their reputation back? I think absolutely yes. And I feel like because gamers' memories are very meh, you give them a good quality game and it's all good. We're good. So my example is this: Mass Effect Andromeda did. Mass Effect fans went crazy. They weren't happy with that, and then Anthem obviously dropped the ball as well. But Legendary Edition came out and Mass Effect fans were happy again. If you give them what they want, I think everyone is good. Everyone is happy. And let's look at Sean Murray and Halo Games. I think Lou mentioned that as well. They lied. They botched a lot of things. And years later, like, people say, yo, that game is dope now. Like, it's where we think it's gonna be. But more importantly, you can't go from being the laughing stock. You can't go from everyone trying to sue you. And then a few years later, I think, like, you're the Game Awards and your game's winning an award and the fans are applauding. So if they can come back from that, then all CD Projekt Red has to do is drop The Witcher 4. They need to just drop an amazing Witcher 4 game.
The point is, Hello Games got their reputation because of their reputation was they botched the launch and made it safe again. So that is their reputation. In the case of CD Projekt Red, they made their reputation beforehand, then they ruined it, then they recovered. Like, that's the difference. Hello Game made the reputation, but how they handled No Man's Sky. So it's not exactly the same. It was a no-name company that latched on and didn't move. No, it's not the same. Like, it's a completely new company that's reputation is you made No Man's Sky come back. CD Projekt Red was a whole separate thing. They made the reputation with The Witcher, and a developer of Witcher failed to this extent, so we can't trust your claims anymore. That will always be there.
I mean, I agree with both of you to varying extents. Like, I think it's absolutely true that they can get like back to a very good reputation. You know, they put out good games, people are gonna. But I think that there's always going to be that thing where like it's going to come up on a podcast or whatever, and whenever somebody starts talking about CD Projekt Red, they're going to talk about Cyberpunk. Because for the last year and a half, every time that people have been like, "Oh, this game got delayed. Good thing. It won't be another Cyberpunk." You know what I mean? Like Cyberpunk is still being used as like a scapegoat for other things happening. And I think it's going to end up being one of those things where like people still talk trash about how really bad the Xbox One launch is, and they were, you know, they cite like the one TV presentation and all that stuff, and like they still go on about that. But people like Xbox now. It's just that there's this poop in the corner, and I think that that's always going to be the case for Cyberpunk or for CD Projekt Red, where like they can bring it back, and I'm sure that they hopefully will come back to being a studio that people like and trust, but there's always going to be that poop in the corner.
That changes everything when it comes to it. Then, like,
I was actually going to say, sorry, man, the project. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you.
I was going to say, Daniel, I agree with you to an extent as well.
Okay.
But I'll say the reason why I disagree ultimately is because I think when we bring up the Xbox situation, we're talking about console wars, I believe, and I think we're also talking about the idea that like, to trust Microsoft, you have to pay 500 euros to buy their console. And that's a different story. But with CD Projekt Red's next game, it's just a game. And I think gamers don't have this idea of like, oh, you know, I started with this game or I don't start with this game. I think back then there was, you know, the FIFA and the PES, you know, Pro Evolution Soccer. That's kind of gone now. I think you can buy different games and still kind of support the other. I don't see a situation where Cyberpunk 4000 comes out and it's getting rave reviews from everybody, and even like the streamers are saying, "Yo, this game is good." Like, I mean, this game is like, this is what we expected. I think you go buy it. I think you buy it, and then I think they make the money, and I think everyone's happy. I think gamers have a very short-term memory when it comes to quality. If you reduce, sometimes you give them a quality game, I think it's there. But you gotta do it smart. You can't, you know, if you want to drop a GTA type of multiplayer kind of game, you can't do it with Cyberpunk. You need to do it with Cyberpunk too. I think that's the main thing right there. It's all about how CD Projekt Red maneuvers during this situation. And I think I don't know if I don't want to say smart enough. I don't know if they have the right people in place to kind of get them to that level. But if Sean Murray has proven anything, is that you can do it 100%.
I don't know, Tay. The thing is, if you No Man's Sky, that game is the same game that's been evolving. They've been working on it. They've been modding it. If Cyberpunk, if they turned around and said, "Okay, we screwed up. No multiplayer in Cyberpunk, but here's Cyberpunk 2, and it has all the things we promised in the first game," that would kill them. I agree with you. It's what they need to do. But selling that PR-wise is the most...
It's a disaster. Like, if you wouldn't nuke your house again, go right ahead. Let's sell everything. He's completely right. That's why they can't do it. Yeah.
Ken, help me out here, bro.
Bro, I don't know, man. I just can't wait to the expansions. I'm not gonna lie. I'm thinking that far ahead. I need to see some expansions from these guys because supposedly I think the first one's set in Pacifica, so I liked that area. I like that region. I like the gang. So hopefully they could do something. So we'll see. Yeah. But I gotta get going, fellas. This was a pleasure.
Man, you brought us into this conversation.
Next time, notes. I swear to God, I tell you, notes will do it. It works. I know. If you get notes and talk over the notes, we will have more videos.
Oh, I like you more in the moment.
Yeah. Listen, I'll close the stream, but you guys stay on. Listen, One to Lou, man, thanks for sticking by, like 100%. Really appreciate that, man. Hopefully we'll get you on this as well one of these days. And to everyone else watching, thanks, and really appreciate it. All right, see you guys.